Aloha, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It's the 808 State from the Big Island of Hawaii. Today with a special YouTube tips, tricks, gear reviews, and whatever else content creators actually could use. And I have some great guests today that I actually met at the NAB 2025. And we've been cruising ever since, and we've been Discording ever since. So I just figured let's make a live stream because these guys know it all. They know a lot, and they're very, very technical. So we have today Mr. Cozy right over here in the studio.
What's going on, brother?
We also have Corey from Freaky Tech Reviews.
What's up,
and we have Joseph Blake, which is our Gerald Undone over here. Come on.
You just hyped us up big time.
You know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do, man. So how about you guys introducing yourself a little bit real quick? Tell us how long you guys been doing YouTube, and let's hit the show, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Who wants to go first?
Joe.
I'll go first.
Yes, you go first. You go first.
I'll make it simple. So yeah, my name's Christopher Cozy. I go by Cozy Christopher on YouTube. I've been doing this roughly about 4.5 years, just about. My channel's predominantly tech, right? So I've done a lot of like tech reviews on consumer electronics, gadgets, desk setups, things like that. And starting to focus my channel a little bit more on content creation gear and like those type of products that we use to make tech, make videos, as well as the regular consumer electronic stuff. So a little bit about me. I'll let the next person go and we'll learn more about us as we go. Corey,
I'll dive in. Okay, so my name's Corey from Freaky Tech Reviews. I actually started YouTube about 5 years ago, this month actually, but I started it focused on reviewing products for big and tall people. I'm 6'10", and so there was no one else doing it at the time, so I thought, I have trouble finding things to shop for my size, so let me provide that for other people. And then 3 years later, Cozy and I actually ended up working at the same company together, and I'd always been fascinated with tech, and I started like a tech side of my tall channel, but after talking with him for a while, I just decided to go dive head first into the tech space. So this channel is about 2 years old now, so I'm kind of like in this weird hybrid right now, but it's been growing pretty well, so I'm excited.
All right, Joseph.
So I got some questions for you on the big and tall side. We can talk after.
Sure.
So my name is Joseph Blake. I have a YouTube channel called Joseph Blake Photography. I'm a working photographer here in Las Vegas and Southern California. I've been on YouTube since 2017. I think like the Casey Neistat daily vlog and the Peter McKinnon tips and tricks stuff kind of kicked me off into that. I've been doing videos since the mid-90s. I've been doing photos since the mid-2000s. And honestly, I would say my channel is predominantly tech, but it's mostly, like camera gear related, camera gear, drones, and the occasional like outdoor adventure, getting lost in the woods type of thing.
Nice.
I like that. Sounds good. So if you guys would have known now what you guys knew back then, if you guys would have known back then what you know now, Cozy, what would we have done different?
I think I would have stayed with my passions, right? So like my passions, like what got me into YouTube was I was watching like Peter McKinnon, Potato Jet, right? And kind of watching that clique, Matty Apolia, and kind of just how they went different places, tried out gear, they did the travel vlogs and different stuff like that, similar like around the Casey Neistat time frame. But what happened was I'm also a nerd. And so like I would have like these gaming keyboards, and I had this really elaborate gaming PC in my background. So like these companies started reaching out and they started sending me those products, right? And what I didn't understand about YouTube then is that you can niche really fast, even if you're not trying to. So like you talk about, something 3 or 4 times, and all of a sudden you're put into this bucket, and the algorithm, as well as the people that follow your channel, will expect those things of you. And so I went into this thinking, I want to do gear reviews. I want to do cameras. I want to do all of these cool things and take these trips. And I have a lot of, I got 6 children and stuff. And so I was like, people want to like see vlogs, like what it's like to have that type of lifestyle and things like that. But I got niched really fast. And so what I know now is that don't feel like you have to force stuff out there, right? Don't feel like you have to accept every product that's sent your way. Don't feel like you have to be pigeonholed into a box. Like figure out what you really want to do first, and then kind of try to pursue that and allow that to grow versus just accepting every product that comes your way. Because that's kind of what trap I fell into. Like, people started sending me stuff really fast, and that kind of changed the trajectory of my channel.
How about you, Corey?
You know, I definitely agree with what Cozy's saying, because like when you have a company send you something for the first time, it's so exciting that you just kind of want to almost bend the knee a little bit to that company, and you get excited because then more companies start sending you that product, so you niche really fast. So I definitely agree with that. I think for me, I would, if I could go back and do some things differently, I probably would have expedited my lighting and mic quality process, because my first almost year on YouTube, I was struggling to understand lighting and struggling to understand audio, and I prioritized quantity over quality. And I think that like I put a lot of effort into just trying to get videos out instead of taking the time to actually learn what I'm doing. And then also, with that said, I think that like as you chase what's good, your bar for what's good rises, and it's just this never-ending circle of trying to get better and better and better. Because like if I would look at my quality content now from where I started 5 years ago, I would never have thought that I could have done that. But as I'm watching my videos right now in 2025, I'm like, oh, I could light that product better. My sound could be better. Like there's always little things like always chasing good and what's better. So like learning to accept and look like behind you on how much work and knowledge you've accrued. Like don't ever forget that, because you'll never catch good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Joe?
I mean, honestly, a lot of the same things these guys have said. You know, Christopher, the idea of kind of sticking with what you like and not, you know, letting yourself get pigeonholed. Whereas, you know, at the same time, the idea of like improving, especially sound, in the beginning. Like I look back at my previous videos and my first few videos, and like my sound was terrible. I put music in the background that was way too loud, right? And I got yelled at in the comments by from people, and I'm like, I don't care, I like that song. But I think that the thing that I probably did the most of is my first few videos on my channel were drone related. I got a DJI Spark, and I did a bunch of videos with that and edited them on my iPad. And so I was doing like LumaFusion edit videos of DJI drone shots, like, and those got a decent amount of traction. And then I did like a kind of a debunk on the drone itself on the Spark, saying like it was garbage because I was having a lot of trouble with it, and basically got a lot of traction there, and didn't learn the lesson that pretty much after like 2016, 2017, no one wanted 4-minute long drone montages in your videos. And so I thought like, if I do this super cinematic video that has like artificial bars on the top and bottom, and I set it to timed music and do all this kind of stuff, people will come. And I did a lot of videos like that were very bad, and that were a lot of like me going outside, and I'm like, people are going to love this. Because I loved it, because I'm like a cinema nerd and I love stuff like that. You know, I tell people like if my photography style could be distilled as anything, it's like Michael Bay in a photo. Like that's what I like.
Lots
I like
of explosions.
I like drama, I like impact, I like contrast, and not looking at explosions. Right? You don't turn around, you walk away. That's what you do.
Right.
But I think learning that, and then also learning that like my original interest in both videography, video editing as a teenager, doing telecommunications in high school, learning how to do edits, learning how to build news packages, which was actually what I learned to do, that I probably should have just started doing that right away, because I'm good at it and I like it. Because those are the videos now that get a lot of traction for me on my channel, and I enjoy making them because I like talking about products. I like talking about market influences. I like talking about the business side of it. You know, I know not everyone cares about Canon's Q1 25, but I do, and I think it matters as it relates to the market. And so I talk about that on my channel, and commenters be damned.
Isn't it though that we all make movies or make all YouTube content based on that we like it,
Right?
You know, I think I mean I have niched down for the hell of it at all. I have been fighting that since how long? I ended up going actually into that whole drone direction at some point in my 5 or 6 years that I've been doing it now. and I got like honked on big time on that to just be a drone guy, while my focus was actually always like cameras. You know?
Yeah.
But I never. The funny part was all these years, I always looked at chasing the newest stuff and getting the newest thing. Why? Because the big names, like you named it earlier, was Peter McKinnon, all those guys. They always had these newest products. Nowadays that we're in here for years already, we all know they've been sending that stuff and they have that release date. So that's the reason why they all have it. You know, for us to purchase that every few months, $800 here, $900 there. Well, hell no. So I realized after 6 years doing this, or 5 years doing it, I have so much gear that I have been using for all these years. I can make a review on just the lens for like 2-3 times because I know so much about it because I've been using it. And besides that, none of that stuff that I have like worth almost 150K of gear. Okay. None of that gear was sent to me. None of that gear was ever sponsored video. So I worked hard for it. I paid with my tax returns, with it, my overtime, with my bloody time and sweat. And therefore, I can say whatever the hell I like.
Yeah. Although I remember talking to you about that at that couch at that NAB party that we went to. And I was really impressed with, like, I don't think sticking it to the company is the right way to say it, but like sticking to your guns. I guess I'll say that, right?
Yeah.
Like your backbone. You told me a story of, I'll let you tell it, but just of a company that like wanted to send you like a redo, basically. Like, hey, let us get some more gear in front of you that you might actually like, so you'll stop crapping on us. And I appreciate how you like held strong in that regard.
Yeah. Well, we can say it right here. It's my channel. So it's Insta360 who did that to me. So, I bought it because I watched it from another influencer, which I'm not going to name in here because I watched the one Insta360 1R at that time, right? And that thing was like the newest action camera. Back then I used to be big into action cameras and I wanted to get back into this whole thing. The problem was that I spent $550 of my hard-earned money, and at that time my money wasn't as fluid as it is now with all the gigs that I get and all that. And it was really tough. And my wife was like, really, you're going to spend $700 on this? And I did. And the product was shit, like full on. It fogged up. It had terrible HDR. It had barely any stabilization when you was doing stuff. The 1-inch sensor was nothing like anything like this.
Right.
You know, even though they advertised it as such. And I made my video and I said, my video was actually named at that time, "This is not a GoPro killer." And I got 10,000 views within the first 2 days.
Nice.
And the company, Insta360, actually contacted me and told me afterwards, like, oh, can you please take this video down? And I told them, hell no. And then they was like, oh, but you might have a faulty unit. We're going to send you a new camera. And I was like, well, send me a new camera. By the time I get the new camera, I might consider taking it down. So they send me a new camera. They send me all these attachments for it. There were lens covers at that time. So I put those on. I rode my motorcycle. And the problem is here in Hawaii, we have an average all the time 80% humidity.
It's wet there.
You're always going to have humidity. And then we drive, when I drive past the beach, we have trees and all this stuff. And you drive through it and the temperature change is huge. Did we lose Cozy there?
I think he just went off camera for a second.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, I ended up, it still was crap. So I made a redid a review, and they even offered me money.
Of course they do.
And
Well,
I told them, thank you. So that just was proof to me that what I do might have an effect on people. And I just don't like when people have to spend money on stuff that, first of all, they don't really gonna need. Second of all, if they use it, it's going to be shit. And I'm not going to put my name out there saying, oh, this is a great camera, buy it. And then the person has the worst freaking experience with it. You know what I mean? Like, I just hate that. So that's why I do videos.
Whenever we had that conversation, if you did mention that it was Insta360, I don't remember because you kept bringing me Long Islands, and I don't like a lot of that night is a little fuzzy. So you just disappeared one point, didn't even say bye, and I was like, oh, I didn't get to say bye. But
oh no, I did say bye. I brought you one more I brought you one more Long Island iced tea, and then I said I'm gonna be over there with Josh Yo, and then you say, all right, my man.
Oh man, dude. All right. Well, okay. I'm glad you said that because, anyways, I don't even remember that, bro. That was a fun night. But anyways, so it's interesting because like I've found with companies like Insta360, they kind of little brothered me recently, and I found that with companies that are willing to throw millions into marketing, they feel like they can throw their weight around. But like they don't understand, like it's kind of the age of the micro influencer a little bit, where there's a whole lot more of us that like than there are of like the big names, and those big names start getting sequestered into like their lineups, right? Like Peter McKinnon is Canon all the way. He's not changing. He's actually the reason that I even went Canon in the first place. And so like, and they can pay those guys $100,000 to review their camera and leave something positive, but that's one person's review. Whereas there's an army of us that can tear you down pretty quick. And if, you know, if we hold strong, and they think they can little brother us because they think that we're just going to be like, oh my God, I get to work with Insta360. I'm so excited. And then but Cozy and I went to CES in January and NAB in April and got the same kind of treatment at Insta360, where it's like, oh, you don't have millions of followers. Okay, well, we'll see you later. So
you know which is super interesting, because they're right off of all of the scandals last year, right, where they were asking folks to shoot.
Not to mention that it was sponsored.
No, right, it was sponsored content, and they wanted certain looks and different things like that. And you know, you said something earlier about, you know, they market these cameras as, you know, like really high end, really good looking cameras, you know, for their sensor sizes. And I do believe that there is a marketplace for an action camera, right? I do believe there's a persona of the type of person that uses that camera. You know, we were talking about that earlier, joking around, like you're not going to put a C70 on a snowmobile or something like that, right? But I think the way that they market them from time to time is misleading, right? Where they show the certain types of footage that you can get with those, and then you actually use it, and it's like, it doesn't look that good the moment the light starts to go down and different things like that, right? You know, it's 8K, but it only works if you're in a really well-lit environment. And that's why they always show it like, you know, at the beach or in snow and different stuff like that, because those are perfect conditions for those type of cameras, right? And I think that's okay. I also think that you don't have to, you know, lie about, you know, the other low light situations and stuff like that. Like if it's not good at low light, you know, just get a different tool, right? You don't have to be like, oh, this is so good with low light, and it's not, you know what I mean? Just, you know, this is really good when I'm at the beach. This is really good when I'm on the mountain. This is really good when I'm hiking. This is really good when I'm snowboarding, skiing. It sucks when I'm at a party. Like, you know, you wouldn't use this. You wouldn't use this in a dark nightclub. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's interesting that they're very still kind of trying to big brother folks, you know, coming off of the year that they had with all the scandals and things like that.
I think like one thing we're going to start seeing a lot more of is companies prioritizing their ecosystem. It's something that Apple's been doing for over a decade now, right? And like I just recently did a review on like the DJI Osmo Pocket Action 5 Pro, whatever the hell its name is. It's got a super long name. And average action camera. I mean, it has some pluses, it has some minuses. A low light's terrible, but like the ecosystem is what sells it for me. How well the DJI mic system integrates into that with my Osmo Pocket 3. And you can even connect your mic through the DJI app and record your voice audio as you're using a DJI drone. And I think that right there is where it's really going to start setting companies apart. And DJI is kind of having their hand forced because of like the drone issues and things like that, especially with tariffs this year. It's like they're having to get creative with how to retain customers and explore outside of drones. And I like that. I think that's what's going to make, and I'd love to hear Joseph's take on this because he's a big drone guy as well. But that I think ecosystems are going to be big.
Well, I think you saw that at NAB specifically with DJI, and the fact that they didn't have their brand on any of their booths, and the fact that the DJI booths were Osmo and Ronin. And you're absolutely right to the point about ecosystem plays being kind of the next step for all of these companies. And I think that that's something that, you know, if you look at the technology advancements that we've seen year over year, right? GoPro sat on their laurels for years and years and just took the same sensor for 3 generations.
Great
and
example.
Then they do the same chip for 3 generations. And then normally like at the last or the third combo of that chip and sensor, you'd see like, oh, there's heat issues now, right? Because basically they're just overclocking their chip over and over again. And so now you start hearing from DJI and others the idea of low light performance. And that's because with the different technology that they have in these cameras, you run into a problem that's just it's physics, right? It's literally the issue of how how photons work. And so they can put in machine learning algorithms because they do have access to faster chips and more machine learning that is better. They can do noise management better. And instead of saying, hey, we're really good at cleaning up noise, they say we're amazing in low light. Instead of saying, hey, we can take a crappy signal out of a 1/1.3 inch sensor and boost it and then clean it fast enough to where you won't notice, but they call it 14 stops of dynamic range. When in reality, if you actually want low light performance, you need an APS-C or a 1-inch or you need a bigger sensor. It's literally all about photosites. How many places do you have on that chip to absorb photons?
And that's
the smaller you make those. When you make things bigger and bigger, then you run into all sorts of issues.
Yeah. Joseph, you lost camera, by the way, camera feed. But
fun.
Insta360 is listening, but no,
they heard. What's he doing?
He didn't kill his feed. Kill his feed.
But that's what's going to be so interesting about, like, there's all these rumors this year about DJI introducing a mirrorless camera into their lineup. And I'm super curious about how they're going to do that, because like you're getting into a realm where the expectations are much higher than an action cam, right? So if you don't have low light performance and you're in a mirrorless body, you are going to get shit on hard, and no one's going to buy your gear. And so I'm really curious to see. But at the same time, if you take like DJI, and if they do even a mediocre job with a mirrorless camera that can get by with most entry-level content creators, and then you introduce that into the ecosystem with their mic setups and all that stuff, it's going to be pretty killer. So I'm pumped about it for that reason.
Me too. I think there's more danger with the first camera than there is like the third, fourth, and fifth, right?
For sure.
Like if as long as your first camera is solid, like people will be okay with a mediocre later on. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Osmo Pocket 3 is all the rave, right? It has been for the last year. And so that's why people are like, if they come into the mirrorless market, they're going to crush it, right? Just literally based off of the success of that particular.
Cozy, it's hold on, where's mine really quick? I want to show my rig, because I didn't get to show Alo whenever we were at NAB. I got this spaceship rig right here. So this is a and he's tucked right in there, my little Pocket 3. But anyways, Ola, let me see your thoughts on this. Cozy's convinced we're getting a Pocket 4 this year, and I want to see.
So listen, you got to give context, man. This dude here, bro, he's trying to make me look bad in front of your users, in front of your viewers. I said that there are opportunities to introduce a higher model. So like, he's saying, and I agree, there's no reason to update the Osmo Pocket 3, but interchangeable lenses on a, on a pro version, or, different stuff that's not on the 3 that people have asked for in a upgraded pro version, I don't think is too far fetched for end of this year, later next year, while still having the Pocket 3. That was before it went up to $799 this week. So
yeah, for sure.
I mean,
well, I obviously I'm giving Cozy a hard time. He's got good points. I mean, he didn't mention anything about 2026 when he said it was coming out. It was all like, it's coming out this year.
I said, listen, late this year, this dude here.
But
that was pre-tariffs too. Don't forget
my
that.
thoughts are like the Nintendo Switch. The reason the Switch 2 has taken so long to come out is because the Nintendo Switch will not stop selling. And like Nintendo didn't need to sell anything new. And the Pocket 3 it's not perfect, but honestly, if I had to recommend a camera setup to anyone getting into the content game right now, well, until the tariff price tag increased, it would be the Pocket 3, because of the mic system, because of it's a really good camera. You have a gimbal like that you don't have to balance. Like, it gives you everything you need as a beginner creator, and the things that would make it better. I think a pro version could definitely do that. I think but to market it as the 4, I think that would it would have to have significant like sensor improvements and just a lot of different things.
See, that's what I was saying, like a larger sensor, interchangeable lenses, and then a pro version. Like, that's kind of how I saw it. He's in focus. And that was, kind of my thoughts on that. So that's why I was pushing that. But again, that was pre-tariffs, right? That was before
these tariffs
these tariffs came out of nowhere, and it even affected Sony and its release and different things like that. Like we talked about earlier about GoPro sitting on their laurels, but I mean, everybody's like Sony's sitting on their laurels until they just released the 50 to 150. Prior to that, everybody was like, man, Sony's not doing anything this year, and and now Lumix is taking off, and now people are, Canon even released their 2 mediocre cameras, you know what I mean? But they released something, but
dude,
but
that S1H2 could get announced like any week now.
Listen, something's releasing.
Yeah,
something's releasing
by Lumix, yeah.
Yeah, something's releasing within the next month, but also apparently Sony's releasing something within the next month too.
Okay, Oliver, are you a Lumix guy? I can't remember.
Nope.
What I don't know what do you shoot on?
Sony.
Oh, Sony. Okay, so
he has
I'm a Peter
common sense,
Lincoln
unlike
fanboy.
you.
What was that? What was that?
I'm a Peter
me and him
Lincoln
have common
fanboy.
sense.
And so like I said, I started YouTube back in 2020. I think media and Peter McKinnon are the reasons that I started with Canon, because the M50 came out, and for a budget beginner camera, the M50 was just like hard to beat at the time. And then you just kind of naturally stick to where, you know, you kind of you get that tribalism type of effect where you're like, oh, Canon's the greatest, you know. Now that I've gotten older, and really NAB is where things change, and the meeting with Canon that we had, that we can talk about if we want to, and then the meeting with Sony being two Long Islands. Oh, hold on, who is that? I know who that is.
That's wifey.
I'm about to say, she brought me. Hey, here's the thing.
She delivered about four of them.
I know. She brought me at least 4 of those, bro. Although I had 6 whiskeys and 6 Long Islands that night, and she brought 4 of those things. And so by the time we walked all the way back down the strip to get back to wherever we were going, and like,
look,
I was feeling good.
Look, I'm not trying to cut him off, but I took one of his Long Islands, was like, you had enough, go get some water. He came back with another whiskey.
Dude, the next morning we had a meeting the next morning with a camera company we were really excited about, and on the way there I told Cozy, I was like, dude, you're gonna have to do most of the talking. I'm not hungover. I'm just drunk. I have not sobered up yet.
Like, I'm not hungover. I'm still drunk, actually.
Yeah, it was like 4 a.m. that we got back. So NAB was a great time.
We keep losing Joseph over here. Joseph keeps cutting out. Joseph, are you all right?
Just blink if you need help.
I'm great.
First or the last time we had have technical.
So when you have a camera set up for doing news stuff, right? And you don't expect to have to turn off the power saving settings, and then when you're on your Canon that normally shoots in log 3 and you turn it off and turn it back on, and it boots back up into log 3, so you guys all see me with, like, you know,
all in log
format. We're rocking the best color science in the world here with the Canon standard profile. Thank you.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
let me go grab my Fuji from over there.
You just missed what we were talking about. We were talking because I'm a Canon guy too. I run with 2 R8s in my setup, and I'm actually looking at moving over to Sony for the needs that I have now, because I've been with Canon for a long time. I love their color science. I started with the M50, or actually the SL3. And then I was like, why do I have a DSLR? Like, I need mirrorless for YouTube. So I switched to the M50 and then just grew from there. But the NAB trip, I was just telling everybody, changed my mind. I think I'm going to convert to Sony.
Yeah, it was the affiliate marketers over at Think Media that got him with the M50 instead of the Fuji X-T3 at the same price.
I started off with back in the photo days, I started off with a Rebel 450D.
Oh yeah, way back.
Quickly realized it couldn't do video. Switched to a 7D, and I was on a 7D for quite some time. My first year on YouTube, I was on a Canon 7D, but the focus in video mode doesn't work on a Canon 7D. Right, that was before like that mirror came up, and it was like, it's up to you.
Lean in, lean out.
And then I switched to a real camera in the 60 Mark II.
Well, and
so
I've always
2019 when I started with an A6400.
Yeah,
that's that one right there. And guess what this one is?
67.
A6400.
Oh, you got 2 of them? 2 of them.
The A6000 series is like the glue. Like, everybody, you're just like, what do you need? Just throw a couple A6000s in your bag.
So the funny part was when I first bought the A6400, because I was looking on the market for a long time and I wanted to go Sony because of Peter Lincoln. And I bought the 6400, and 2 weeks later, these suckers brought out the 6500 with the IBIS. And I was like, what? But because I learned throughout all these years to deal without IBIS, I got a whole lot better shooter once I got to IBIS and lens, like the OSS and all that. So I produce these days, I produce footage where people like, bro, that looks so cinematic. And I hate that word. Like, if you ask me, cinematic is like literally if you're Michael Bay, you know, and you make film like that, anamorphic, that's cinematic to me. Or but there's so much times that people throw out the word cinematic. It's like, nah, this is not cinematic. You know what I mean? Well, it's so generalized these days. So I think cinematic has to be really to do with art, the way it's shot with the lighting, and lighting plays a big role in it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, yeah, of course the camera does too, but who walks around with a red these days?
Right.
Who's a micro content creator, like he just said. You know what I mean?
Red ain't what they. Oh yeah. Well, I would say red ain't what they used to be, anyways, because you got like the Pixel stuff coming out this year. That's like can't justify the price tag of a red anymore, really.
I know. I seen Kofi and Tam during their video shoot
for Black Magic.
Bro, that thing was nice.
Yeah, 12K looks real nice.
Wow. And you know it's a $3,000 cinema camera, you know? So
you know what's really nice is like when I even just back in 2020, like if you kind of had to be specific with what you were getting if you just wanted to get good quality or buy specific needs, but like it's hard to go wrong nowadays. Like the incremental differences between camera brands, whether it's low light performance, autofocus, color science, whatever it is, it's like there's never a better time to enter into the camera space. It is overwhelming because there's a lot of options, but it's hard to go wrong because there's a lot of great entry level stuff on the market right now. And it's nice to have.
Well, Corey, you're saying you want to hop out of your dual R8s. So what's the R8? And I don't say this as a Canon person because I've definitely I've got my own issues and everybody does. It's just what I started with. So I've been collecting lenses and that's how they stick you, right? But what is it that makes you like? What is it about your workflow or your specific setup that says like the R8's not doing it?
It's not anything that's a total deal breaker. A lot of it is going to be like nice to have. It's kind of like wish list stuff that I want to change to. Whenever we were at the Sony booth, Cozy, what was it? The
ZVE1.
The ZVE1, the 4K 120. I bought the R8s because I wanted uncropped 4K 60. Because when I do a lot of like product videography style shots with the products that I'm reviewing, and I need that slow-mo, and I want 120, right? R8 can't do that. I love the fact that it has that 6K sensor that it downsamples to. The ZVE1 downsamples from a 7K sensor, so it's just slightly okay. Everyone just setting their cameras up here,
grabbing the gear.
What happens to you when you go 4K 120? I'm just telling you.
Not for what I need. And that's why I like the ZVE1 so much, is because they did things like they took away the electronic viewfinder, which I never use. So it's a little bit less payload on your gimbal. Little things like that I like. And I'm not trying to promote that camera specifically. But Sony, their autofocus is something that I would really like to be able to work with, and their low light performance. As you can see, I have a very dark studio environment, and I control a lot of that lighting with my light. So I'm not too worried about it. But there's times where I would like to be able to work with a bit better low light. Again, it's incremental differences for what like the R8 can give me, because I love the R8. It's been the best camera ever. Outside of that, I think I don't like being locked down to the RF ecosystem. That's something like, as good as RF lenses is, I would like to, like, what made me start thinking outside of Canon was actually a couple years ago, Tamron released that 35 to 150 2.8. And I was like, I just want that lens. I want it because it's just so much functionality and I can never have it. And then like when we met with the guy at NAB at Canon that we had a meeting with, and he kept trying to sell us that oh my God, I can't remember the model names, the R50V. I'm like, he kept showing it to us and I'm like, dude, like I want to talk about what's next for me. What's going to future-proof my channel? And he kept wanting to show us this beginner level thing. And I'm like, you're not hearing me. It's just like, I don't know, man. There's a bunch of little things that have maybe like kind of disenfranchised with the brand overall. And then just for like, if I'm gonna change ecosystems, I want more opportunities at cost for glass, right? And not to be locked down. Because like, is the Sigma thing with the RF mount going to happen? It's been 2 years of speculation. I don't know yet.
No, it's happened. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand as you look at, and if you listen to the conversations that you're getting from executives when they start doing things, everybody starts talking about, oh, the RF mount is opening, the RF mount is opening. Canon is opening the RF mount for Sigma and Tamron to build RFS glass. They have no interest in the L level glass on the full frame from anyone other than them.
When does that start though?
The RFS stuff,
right?
So you can get some stuff now, and I know that that Sigma has they've got some odd focal length primes that they're doing, like 23 and like a 32. They're like I think f1.8s, f2.8s that are going to be out if they're not already this year. That's stuff that, but again, like, so if you're shooting on an R8 though, right? So you're effectively shooting on the same camera that I am. You just don't have IBIS, right? I'm on an R6 II right here. This is an R5 I.
Well, RF lenses do have some IBIS built into the lenses themselves, which is
the RF lenses do, absolutely. But what I mean by that is like you're getting the exact same image that I'm getting,
right,
in an R8. And the 24 megapixel in the R6 II is from a light absorption standpoint. The R3 is a faster lens, but not necessarily, or a faster sensor, but not necessarily better at low light. The R1 is faster, but maybe a little bit better, not because the sensor is necessarily better, but because the machine learning algorithms for noise are better. And so effectively with the R6 II or the R8, you have like the best sensor that Canon makes for low light performance.
Right.
And so but it's 24 megapixels, right? You throw an RFS lens on there. A lot of people do the math like 1.6 divided by. It's actually considerably smaller than that. You're going to probably get like 7-8 megapixels. From going from 24 down. If I put RFS on this, which is 45, I'm going to get 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a much, much smaller window. And so for you, right, and I know you're doing mostly video, but that matters, right? The clarity is there, especially when you're on a
sure,
on an R8, which is a downsampled 6K signal.
Yeah, no, it looks great.
If I'm shooting 8 on this one or 6K on this one, I want those optics to resolve as much as possible, right? And so if I'm running glass that's super high quality, that's I'm not going to spend $3,200 to replace a lens that I can get that is 90% as good from a third party. And the irony is, at least for me, and this is on the photo side as well, I'm still shooting all of my portrait and family photos on EF glass.
Yeah.
So I shoot video on my RF glass. So my 24 to 105 f4 and my 14 to 35 f4 are my two, like those are my video lenses. But my 85, my EF 85 14L IS never leaves, except for right now. It left because I was doing a video on this camera. But normally that lens never leaves my camera.
Yeah, that price wall is difficult for the RF stuff.
And that EF lens, the 85-14 with IS, I think I spent like $1,500 on that, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Well, and here's the thing, I realized that like 60% of the value of an R8 I am not using because I am strictly video. I do not do pictures, no portraits, anything like that. And so I'm like, before this thing starts to decrease in value, does it make sense to switch now to a brand that is prioritizing video for content creation? I kind of started to think about that a little bit. And then one other thing that kind of made me to like think outside of Canon that really pisses me off is actually their EOS webcam utility. That's something that frustrates the hell out of me. Like, I don't want to pay to access a higher resolution to use it as a webcam. Like you're limiting yourself so much. And I don't use it that often, but Cozy and I have another podcast. Like right now, I would like to be using my R8, but I would like to, I'm like, what's the point of setting it up if I'm going to get the exact same resolution as I am from this OBSBot webcam?
Right.
Yeah, the only reason that I use, so right now, I'm using a capture card to ingest HDMI out of my R6 because I am shooting through a teleprompter. And I do have my Sigma, another EF lens adapted, my Sigma 35 f1.4 Art DG, which I love that lens. It basically, this is my setup. It never leaves this.
I love an art lens.
That's spot.
It's a beautiful lens. It's a beautiful setup. And on the R6 II, it looks amazing. But yeah, like these cameras, and I absolutely agree with you on the Canon side. And I want to say, was it Fuji or I think it was Fuji that just came out with either a camera or an update that allowed you to use the full bandwidth out of the USB 4 port, right? USB 4 can do 40 gigabits a second. Even USB 3.2 Gen 2 can do 10. 10 is enough for 4K 10-bit 422.
Right.
Like you can do ProRes through 10 gigabits. Why can't I export that out of my camera? Like I can get it out of the HDMI port, but then I got to go buy a capture card to ingest it. And you guys have heard me talk about that as a thing. I walked the entire NAB floor. I talked to everybody. I talked to Atomos. I talked to AHA. I talked to who else did I mean, everybody.
Corey
It
too.
was-
Blackmagic bought the iTunes.
No, so I went to Blackmagic and they were like, "Oh yeah, we've got it right over here," and they
Coming
showed me
over.
the studio assistant screen, and they're like, "Do you need 1080 or do you need 4K?" I'm like, "I need 4K." They're like, "Then you need the 12G model." I'm like, "Done." I'm like, it's 7 inches.
Blackmagic is wonderful.
Yeah,
Right? I
Blackmagic's
was like,
amazing.
you guys get it, right? I went
Yeah.
to Elgato, who's the only other company that really does any sort of, because they do mostly gaming streaming.
Mhm.
They're the only company that advertises anything that does 4K in anything more than 30p that isn't then going to downsample, right? There's lots of capture cards companies out there that'll be like, "Oh yeah, you can do 4K 120," and it's like, yeah, but you're going to spit out 1080p 60.
Right.
And I went to them and I
Just a
asked them. They
pass-through.
had all their tech guys there, and they were like, "The what now?" Like,
why you need that?
YUV what? YCV what?
You know how much my capture card was?
Those were paid actors at the Elgato booth.
Oh, damn it! I cannot pull it. My capture
The
card
cable.
Don't unplug your camera. Don't do what I did.
was $10.
Yeah, no. So I've done for different organizations. I've done like streaming setups where like you kind of run in and you do. It doesn't have to be like super pro, but it's like they need a stream, especially during COVID, right? And so we would buy these. Like it's what I'm using now. These like
I know what you're talking
crappy
about, those
little,
little thumb-
they're like the
little thumb USBs.
size of a credit card.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
They say 4K on them. They output 1080p 30. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And
When
then
you
like
need
they
to
don't
do
know.
like a church broadcast for olds and people who are COVID, quarantined at home, it works great. They're $39. They break every 4 to 6 weeks, and you just
Right.
buy it.
Just get another one.
Man, I was talking to
Goes-
I was talking to the Blackmagic folks, and I was like, please, please, please come out with another version of the ATEM series Extreme and do 4K ISO. Please just do that. And they said it's just the transfer rates to of that much footage from multiple camera angles. I'm like, I just need 2 angles. 3 would be great, but just 2 cameras, please give it to me. Now, YOLOBox Ultra, I don't know if you've heard of that. They can do that. So it's a smaller company that's on the rise. I was aware of them before NAB, and I went and checked it out in person. And I'm not a tablet control style person. I like tactile feedback of actual buttons. But theirs is all tablet based, but it can do 4K ISO recording and a 4K master file. And I'm like, I don't understand how, and I obviously haven't tested it, so I don't know how good it is. But like it seems to be like they're starting to enter that market, so it's one to keep an eye out for.
Okay.
So I have a question. For you guys.
Everybody wanted to, show me, because I'm like, you can't tell me that there aren't people who are doing high-end gaming channels who want
4K.
color depth, who want that quality. And everybody was trying to give me or recommend that I look at like individual, like actual capture cards, like PCIe capture cards. And I'm like, well, I do have a Thunderbolt, because I'm a Mac person, and I'm like, I do have a Thunderbolt enclosure that does have, a 4x PCI slot in it. I could do that. But the cable runs alone.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so we got HDMI because it's loud, so it's got to run in the other room, right? It's in the closet. So HDMI from the camera through the wall into the capture card, Thunderbolt out into the Mac. Like,
Right.
Just for YouTube to compress it.
Here's my thing. Let my M1 Max with 32 graphics cores and 2 H.265 encoder units handle the encode.
That's what I'm using.
Give me the raw dump, man.
Right. That's right.
So if you guys would start a YouTube channel today, let's say you guys never done it, but you guys know what you guys know now.
Yeah.
What would be your camera choice in the low end budget with the glass?
Focused on product reviews or just I think that plays a lot into
You
it.
start your channel today and you do whatever you want to do. Vlogs, reviews, whatever.
Man, for me, if you don't know anything about cameras, I'm still just such a fan of the Pocket 3. I think it's such a good starting point. It's not ever going to give you the cinematic quality, right? That we're just talking about a second ago, right? Like it's going to give you, it's a jack of all trades. I think if you're new to the content creation space and being a YouTuber and you don't know what you're going to be doing yet, I think it's safe to buy a jack of all trades camera that can easily become a secondary camera angle before diving whole hog into a ecosystem. That's my thoughts, but I'd love to hear someone else's.
Yeah. For me, I'm a pixel peeper. So like I would say like I don't like I said earlier, like I don't like action cams, like I don't like smaller sensors, right? And so if I were to start today and my budget was $1,200, I would probably go Sony ZV-E10 Mark II with the Viltrox lens, to be honest. Like I would get the widest Viltrox lens on an E mount, like a 13. I think it's a 13 is the E mount that they have, and it's a 2.8. And I would use that as my catch-all, type setup. And then if I had a little bit more money, then I would go A6700 again with the Viltrox lens, because you're getting about 90% of the performance of a G Master. I would go with a similar setup. And then if I had more money, then I would get the setup that I use the most, which is my A7C2 with the 24 millimeter on it. Like if I had more, like the money that I have today, I would start with that, right? And so those are kind of like my 3 levels, because I always want it to be future proof as much as possible. So I always think like, what can I use for the next 2 to 3 years? Like what will still be good if I outgrow what I'm buying? And so that's why I never went through that. Let me get a $500 camera or anything like that. I just waited until I could afford. The first camera I started with was the Fuji X-T3 that had 4K 60, had no crop back in the day, and it was like it broke the mold. It kind of was better than the EOS R around that time frame. It was right before Canon started doing some things and Sony started doing some things, and so that Fuji hit the scene, and kind of I used that camera for like the first couple of years of my channel. So I would take a similar route, like what can I get if I save up to $1,200? What can I get if I save up to $1,700? And then what can I get if I save up to $2,000? And that's kind of how I would start my channel today in 2025. I guess if you use an iPhone 15 Pro Max too. Really, it's really all you need today.
Well, lighting and mic too. Like, you gotta have that.
I mean, I still hate those small sensors. I really do. I really do.
I would definitely say that to start with, if I had the tech that's available today, I'd start with the iPhone, the 16 Pro Max.
Mm-hmm.
Only because I think that they've gotten exceptionally good at like the cinematic mode stuff with, artificially creating that background. Now, I don't do a whole lot of product shots. A lot of my stuff is looking into the camera. And so you would definitely be able to get a lot of what I'm doing on the video side before you start pixel peeping. I would definitely be able to get a lot of that done on the iPhone, assuming that I'm not spending any money on that because I've already bought that phone, or it's, I've got it on my plan.
Part of your contract.
Like honestly, I would also kind of skip the studio stuff to start with. I spent a lot of time not concentrating on the videos and concentrating on like which light and where is it and what does it do and all this kind of stuff. When really the next step that I should have focused on would have been sound. And so I would have just gotten, again, if I had the tech that I have now, like the Hollyland Lark M2S, because it's got that teeny tiny little USB dongle that you can just throw on your iPhone. I've recorded on that. The distance is phenomenal. I would have been able to get my news videos and my adventure videos done with that setup. No issues. Outside all the time, natural light. I'm in Vegas. There's never clouds, right?
Right.
And then if I step up from that, like if I say, okay, what's the next thing up? I actually would probably go look for like a used, if I wasn't going to look at Sony, because to be quite honest, I don't know enough about Sony to say, though I know that the A6700 or just the A6000 series in general is phenomenal. I would say that once you've shot on full frame, video or photo, with shallow depth of field primes, it's hard to go back to that.
Agreed.
Like, I'll take noisy any day, especially if it's good noise, over like I'm locked at 5.6 or something.
Right.
So I would probably go get like a 6D Mark II, because it still had the first version of dual pixel autofocus. It'll lock onto my face, no problem. I can do a talking video. I can do a walking video. And then I would go find like a third-party prime lens. Not even in the pro level, because you're going to be shooting 1080 anyway. You're going to be throwing that into Premiere, DaVinci, Final Cut. You're going to scale it up to 4K. Then you're going to throw sharpening on it. It's going to look fantastic. You don't have to shoot in log, honestly, because no one cares. Like the only person that cares if I shoot in log is me.
You.
Right.
And I'm not pulling out color in the shadows.
Right.
And so to get my channel at a place where I could like repetitively produce content and in a quality look. Yeah, start with the iPhone and a good wireless lav mic, shoot outside, and then move that over to a used, inexpensive Canon full frame DSLR with dual pixel autofocus too, or dual pixel autofocus, and a inexpensive, again, used, maybe even vintage, as long as it can focus.
Right.
Because I'm not a lot of bobbing and weaving, you know. Well, that's it. Like.
The phone is such a good call out, especially if you pair it with Blackmagic's app. Cozy showed me that at NAB, and I don't know why I hadn't been using this thing sooner. I really like. I always knew the camera. I have the 15 Pro Max. Always knew the camera was really good. Had no idea until like I got into the Blackmagic app, and I was like, oh my god! I just used it today for a shoot where it was like the greens were so green behind me, but it wasn't oversaturated, and I was like, man. Cozy, why didn't you tell me about this years ago?
So Walter Hall actually got it away from me before. So most of you guys do your guys' own editing, right?
Yep.
I do half and half. I have a guy who edits my videos now, but I also do a lot of my own editing too.
So for me, if I would have started my channel today, it would have been besides having my regular phone. Where's my phone?
Hey, did you try calling it?
So I have an S23 Plus, which is on my contract anyways. And I wait until November when I have to upgrade because then the 2 years off. But the one thing that I would pick me up for it, because even though the Osmo 3, I agree with you, it's a great camera and it's great to start. But if you really start and your budget is really tight, I don't think you can afford that because that thing is like still $700 in the Ultimate Kit. Right now, I think the price even may go up. So I actually would invest my money like we did at the NAB. We picked up a Flow 2 Pro from Insta360, or the opposite side would be the DJI Mobile, Osmo Mobile, so that you have a gimbal with your phone.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I just did because those things run like what, $150?
Yeah.
So, and then besides that, for the audio part, I actually would go with this is the package for the DJI Mic 2, but I would go with the DJI Mic Mini because that's the one that I'm running right now for this live stream.
Dude,
and you could use that with whatever, you know what I mean?
This mic system is so killer. I
Yes,
love this mic system.
So I have the DJI Mic 2, which I love because of the internal recording. But if you can't afford $360, $169 for the big case of the Mic Mini will get you exactly what you need to have. Like it's perfect. You can use it with an action camera. You can plug it into your phone. All those things. That's what I would start with. And then editing wise, DaVinci Resolve is free. So video editing wise, if you want to get into video editing, I would start with DaVinci Resolve because it pretty much shows you on the free version so many things that you can utilize already. And then you have a one-time fee if you really decide to pick up the studio version, which is $299. And I did that back then because I had a ripped version from like download kind, and then I was using that thing. You know what I mean? And I was using it for 2 years. I came from Sony Vegas, and then from Sony Vegas, that was a ripped version, and I went over to DaVinci Resolve free. And I was like, oh, what is this? And then I got the studio RIP version, but then there were a couple of issues because you couldn't put in plugins, you couldn't use certain functions because then it would have to connect online, and then boom, then you would get busted, and all of a sudden the thing wouldn't work, right? So by DaVinci Resolve 14, I made enough money to actually purchase it, and I never looked back. We are coming up to DaVinci Resolve 20, which has some amazing features that are coming in there, especially with this whole AI thing going on right now. I think DaVinci Resolve is like the go-to starting whatever, because you don't have to pay monthly like you do with Premiere Cut, whatever. All this Adobe stuff, they dishing out what, $60 a month these days.
You count that up
throughout the year.
I am they.
So I mean, you count that up through the year. You're paying like almost $1,000 a year just for editing software and having Photoshop and having Lightroom. I mean, it's great to have all these options, but $1,200 is $1,200, bro.
Listen.
Well, and there are other options out there that you can get that really kind of solve those problems. At least, generally, they don't necessarily have all the tools that something like Lightroom or Photoshop or Premiere have. But like, I was using Premiere for 20 years, like since version 3.5 or version 4, the one with the horse. And I switched to Final Cut when I went Mac, and I've used DaVinci. I really like it. I do love that it's free, but I also tell people, like, if you're looking to go to that next step, ask yourself the question of what the tools are that you need, right? I've actually, again, at the onset of my channel, I did a lot of videos about LumaFusion, which has a phenomenal iPad editor. And now obviously Final Cut on the iPad requires the subscription. Adobe Rush, I've not been able to get really, I don't like it. I'll just tell you that. But if you're on a Mac, like Final Cut, for again a one-time purchase, works really, really well. And while it does not have the tools that DaVinci does, it definitely, there's no question there. If you're looking for a quick and fast editor, again, from the time saving standpoint, that's why I continue to use Final Cut. But I would say for a lot of folks who are first starting out, especially if they're shooting on their phone, they're not necessarily going to have a computer, right?
Yeah.
And I count myself as an elder millennial, right? I just assume that there's a computer somewhere, right? Well, no, you're going to use your laptop for that. Like, what are you doing with your phone? Like, why can't I upload from my browser? Like, what do you mean I have to use the app? But the app is on my phone and I'm on my computer, right? I'm an old. And we just have to like realize that a lot of people are, and that's why like CapCut is, and that's why in these conversations, I'm always waiting for somebody to say CapCut, because they're not going to use DaVinci because they don't have a computer. They're not going to use Adobe because why?
Right.
They're not going to use Final Cut because they're not in that ecosystem necessarily. And they're going to use CapCut, even if they have to spend money for it. Actually, you mentioned Blackmagic, and I just wanted to mention just one of my favorite accessories that I've got, and I'm sure there's lots that are like this. This little puck. This is a 1 terabyte SSD. That's MagSafe, and so it just sticks to the back of your
That's
phone.
an SSD.
And they give you little like L
bracket.
What the hell?
That are super cool.
That is
so Lexar sent this one out.
That
and
brings us back to what is that with DJ? That
Cozy.
that
You mean this one?
Oh, listen. Which one did they say? Yeah, that one right there. Yeah,
4 terabyte, the size of a credit card.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out how you guys are getting stuff.
I want to answer on the editing thing really quick. So I was actually going to say CapCut's a great starting point if for vertical content, mainly what I would use it for.
Well,
what's that?
I'll add to that after you're done. Go
ahead. Okay. I started with Premiere Pro for a couple of years. Hated every second of using it. It was problem is when you work with such an advanced platform that has so many features with so many tweaks and things that you can change, it is overwhelming for a newbie, right? And that's something you got to take into consideration. What's your starting point? What's your foundation? Premiere Pro for me, what lost it for me was the crashes and exporting of black levels in 2020. That made me buy an M1 MacBook Air just to get away from it, because I kept hearing about Final Cut, and DaVinci was good, but it wasn't what it is now then. So I was like, I'm ready to go into the Apple ecosystem, partly because of things like AirDrop is unbeatable, especially when you're like nowadays using the Blackmagic app, being able to transfer gigabytes of files in seconds. So I have the whole ecosystem around me now, but also like you can get the Pro app education discount bundle. It's kind of a little pro tip for anybody, without providing any proof of working in the field of education. So you can get for $200, you can get Final Cut, Motion, and Logic and 2 other apps, all for $200 for the education discount, and it's a one-time purchase.
It used to come with Aperture. I actually bought Aperture in that bundle, and then they made Aperture. They forced me into Adobe's hands with Lightroom.
I will say this, Joseph, to that point, Lightroom was the one thing from the Adobe suite where I was like, I miss Lightroom. I use Canva for all of my thumbnails because it started free, loved it so much, I pay for it now. And I still love Canva, but man, Lightroom just has so much to it that I miss. Not for thumbnail creation, but just what it can get out of an image is just, I love that.
I know a lot of people like Capture One as an alternative. But what I'll tell you is, like, for one, if you are doing round tripping into Photoshop, it is just smoother when you're running it with Lightroom. But also, to be quite honest, like the extensibility that I found within Lightroom. That was actually one of the tips that I wanted to bring, but I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate because again, I don't know how many of the folks might watch this that are stills photographers, but my Lightroom library, because I'm dumb and I don't split up my library. I have one gigantic monolithic library that has 500,000 photos in it on a NAS. But I have to do marketing, right? I have to do social media. I have to do things for my photography business. And to do that, it's important to build themes and coherent structure that makes things like, okay, these are maternity photos. These are family photos. These are kids. This is at the beach. This, and to do that is very difficult unless for 15 years, you've been meticulously adding keywords and metadata to all of your photos. And I have not been doing that. So one of the really, really cool things that I love about Lightroom is the fact that it has plugin extensibility. And one of the best plugins that I've ever seen is one called AnyVision. There's a free version of it. It's just this guy that makes it. But if you Google AnyVision Lightroom plugin, and I think it's like you give him a $10 donation or something, and he sends you a reg code. If you really wanted to hack into the Lua, I'm sure that you could find a way to undo the reg code. But what it will do is it will allow you to select photos and then send them to Google's Gemini's Cloud Vision API, which is free if you use the tier that only does like a certain amount at a time. It'll send those photos up and you can send a prompt along with it. So it's just like dropping a photo into like ChatGPT and saying like, give me 5 keywords for this photo. And so what I do is I'll do that, and I'll actually ask Google to tell me the top 5 keywords within a list. I give it 20, which are like my things, the categories that I traditionally use. I also tell it, and then in a separate prompt that will actually add to a different field, I say, and then give me everything else. Like, give me everything you can find in this image. And so then I not only have a keyword repository that I can search of all 500,000 photos.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Where I'm like, show me everything with a woman smiling at the beach.
Yeah.
And it'll look up my entire library and do that. And then I can also just do like, okay, search the entire metadata for this entire thing and just give me, I need something that looks like this or that has, I need somebody in a red dress.
Love AI.
That's sweet. Yeah.
If Google Vision API found that, it'll give it to me. And what it does is it basically just says, okay, I can chunk out 10 images at a time and send them off. And then it'll send me the data back. And I do like 1,000 images a day. If I haven't, like if I have a group of images that are old that I haven't done, because I've been doing them all recently, like as I finish them. But like I'll shoot 500 photos on a photo shoot, and then I'll deliver between 50 and 100 and then, finished. But I might want to use those other photos for something else down the road.
Yeah.
Right.
And so having that is huge. And I've really only been able to find that through Lightroom because I can set it and forget it. Once I set the prompt and once I send it, I can walk away.
Wow.
That's
incredible.
I've got a 2 gigabit fiber connection and a 5 gigabit Ethernet adapter for a reason. Like I want to step away.
See,
and have it just work.
The AI integration that Adobe's doing, I wish, like that's one of the drawbacks of being in the Apple ecosystem. You're going to get everything secondhand, not in terms of quality, but in terms of like Apple doesn't do anything until every other company's done it for 5 years. So it's like, it's going to be a minute before it really hits us.
Yeah.
But you can still, I will say, like a lot of the tools, if you dig like 1 or 2 steps deeper, right? Because when a lot of people talk about AI, or when Apple gets hammered in the press for AI or the lack of AI, right?
Right.
You hear a story I did on my channel about how their CFO cut the budget for H100 chips, and so Siri decided to be stupider. Like that's literally how it happened. But if you follow that and then you say, okay, so that means that Mac OS or iOS or iPad OS is going to lack Apple baked in AI features. But to be quite honest, if you're on the bleeding edge, which I think most content creators are, to be quite honest, you don't want to use their baked in tools. You want to use what's out there and what's new. Agreed. And that's when you get into, okay, I've got web-based, right? I've got Claude, I've got Gemini, I've got ChatGPT, and a bunch of other tools that are out there that I can access. And then the next step past that is the APIs.
Yep.
Okay, I don't even need the web interface. I want to access this directly, and I want to get super complicated. And that's what I'm doing. And it has significantly improved, not just on my photography side, but on my content creation side, where I've been able to incorporate a considerable amount of workflow that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily save me a lot of time, because basically all the time that I save, I just use to make finer tuned perfectionist style tweaks. Or, you know,
The ever-going
I'm like, hey,
Sure.
I saved an hour on my edit by using AI tools. Now I'm going to add audio hits to all of my spec lists.
Right.
Like, but that is that step, and that's platform agnostic. That doesn't, I mean, you know, I've got a Zima Cube that I'm pretty sure was spying on me and sending all my data to China until I locked down all its ports. That I have running a bunch of scripts for me, and I can call it remotely and just in a little bash terminal on my iPhone, I just
That's
say,
sweet.
do this,
Nice.
and it boom, and it pulls it. And then when I do get back to my computer, my big boy computer, because I'm an adult,
Full desktop.
well, it's a laptop, but I do have an Anchor hub, and I've got my 32-inch monitor, right? Because that's how you know you're a professional. These kids these days trying to call themselves pro and using an iPad. Like, all that work is happening while I'm doing other stuff, and that gives me the time to then either perfect my craft, relax, spend time with my kids, right? Because my toddlers are insane.
Hey, Walter, I'd be interested in talking about DaVinci, or going back to DaVinci. Isn't the free version capped at 1080p? The last time I tried the free version, was it capped at editing 1080p, or has that changed? It was years ago. So going back to what Corey said earlier, around 2020, Adobe had a lot of problems. One of them was you had to have that extra added layer of black that you would have to put on top of the export, because it wouldn't export blacks correctly. Secondly, they only store the main system file on the C drive. And so if you ever had anything on a NAS or anything on an external drive or something like that, it didn't find it, like it had issues with exports and
DaVinci doesn't have
things like that.
It doesn't have logo overlay for a free version, does it?
No. Okay. And then the third thing with Adobe Premiere is always the price, right? You pay, like you said, $60 a month. That's $720 a year. I pay that. And so I've thought about going to DaVinci Resolve several times. But I did, for about a good 6 months last year, take a soiree over to CapCut, because Corey mentioned earlier, like, vertical content only. The desktop version is actually pretty dang nice. The desktop version that you can download for CapCut is really good for a new content creator that is focusing on creating content for YouTube. It doesn't have all of the power for audio editing and cleanup and all of those different things that, you know, your DaVinci and your Adobe and your all of that was going to have. But like editing titles, it basically takes effects and music, you know, copyright free music and all of that stuff. It's already baked into the CapCut desktop software version. If you pay $80, you get the pro version for free for a full year, which gives you more transitions. It gives you more screen effects. And I mean, we're talking about all of the screen effects that you might go into Adobe Effects or Motion Array or different things like that and create. You get all of that built into CapCut. So if you are new to content creation and you're starting to learn out how to edit and stuff like that, I would look at that first, because it just does it for you. You don't have to actually have to have the expertise. When you start getting to DaVinci, which is, I mean, they make movies with DaVinci Resolve Studio, right? And so that's a full on, like, understanding the skill set of editing and things like that. Although there's a lot of, I mean, YouTube University, as we always call it, out there where you can watch a ton of videos and learn it really fast. But just if you're starting today and you don't know what to do, I would say start with CapCut desktop and go from there.
That's a fair point. Quick question on Adobe. The terms of service that the Photoshop has, where they own the rights to your footage for photos, is that the same for Premiere Pro? Do they own your video footage?
You know,
so their terms don't say they own the footage.
It doesn't.
Access.
No, so they got into a lot of trouble because the TOS that they put out last year. No, it was understandably
because of the AI stuff.
Yeah, and basically what they were, and they rewrote it and kind of clarified it. But what they did was they came out with a TOS that basically said, like, we can use it for the purposes of, and the primary purpose that they were going to use it for was like customer service.
So when you
use their AI tools or use your stuff, and you ran into a problem, they wanted to be able to, like, it's kind of like, okay, send an error report, send a feedback thing. Like, why was this bad? And they want to be able to look at it to figure out why it was bad. To do that, they need access to your stuff. So they need some content access rights. The problem was that the language made it sound like they would do that and maybe some other stuff. I don't know.
Well, it's too
I'm sure they did.
open-ended.
yeah. But they've,
just in case,
as far as I understand, they cleaned that up. And at Adobe Max in London last week, they doubled down on their content privacy, like their creator credentials system that they're implementing into Photoshop and Adobe. They're going to make that an Adobe only service, but they've opened up into the Firefly model for video creation. They've opened up the capability to now use third-party models, right? So they're going to eventually put in Sora and all of the other third-party video creation systems, and then ChatGPT and Gemini and all that into Photoshop. But if you use Adobe's Firefly, they'll let you do content credentials to say like, hey, I created this. And I know that if I did use generative AI, it was safe, right? It's corporate safe. You can use it in your stuff. So they've really come quite a long way since last summer when they.
I'm glad you said that, because the average person, I was like, I'll never touch their stuff again. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and it still sounds like that. Like like they did clean it. Like you said, they cleaned it up and they changed all of that. But it's whether or not you followed it afterwards, because that's kind of what happens. Like once it hits the scene and like it becomes public information, like did you continue to follow the news to figure out what was the next update and things like that? Because that's another one of the things where it's like, man, if they own my stuff, because you know how I am, like as soon as someone says they own my content or own access to my content, I'm like, not doing that no more. I'm done with that company. Done with that brand.
Every company pushes into that. They're like, hey, we're sending you this $20 product to feature in your video. By the way, we want rights to your footage. We want to be able to remarket it. We want exclusive, partnership for a year. It's like, good God.
We want to generate a digital avatar with your likeness that we will own.
Right. Like they want the world for their product to be in your video that you're providing marketing for free. It's like, that's what a lot of people don't realize, that we're marketing your product. Whether or not we have bad things to say about it, it's marketing for you at the cost of the product and shipping. That's it. We do all the heavy lifting. And anyways, if we go any farther down that rabbit hole, I'll get pissed off. So it's like, because I have that conversation every day.
Bring the Long Island ice.
I know, right? Go get a whiskey right now. But yeah, it's anyways. So yeah, that's why that hits so hard to me. Anytime a company talks about we own the work that you do, just purely because it's on our platform, I don't like that. So,
but that's where the economics of all that is going. Like it's all going to be platform. Like it's just going to be, well, you're on our platform, right? That's why Apple got handed their butts this week from a federal judge saying like, hey, you can't keep people from linking out of the App Store or doing any of the things that we told you that you could not do simply because you consider the iPhone a platform when it's a piece of hardware. And so it's like, well, we've provided the privilege of this platform for you to host your insert thing here, your video edit, your photo edit, your app, your social media experience, right? That's how Meta feels about our social media. That's how they feel about Instagram. They own our stuff when we send it there. On the Adobe side, the one that I'm actually really curious about, and I would love to hear someone figure this out, is Adobe Stock. As someone who did a lot of before I did photography full time, I was in healthcare on the operations business side, and I managed marketing teams. And we would always like, okay, we need content, and it costs money to like run around to all of your locations and take pictures. Let's just do some stock photography. And in the last year, you go on Adobe Stock, and it's like, I see photos that look like the photos that I was seeing before, but it's exactly what I asked for. Like basically you ask for something and it's not even telling you that it's generating it. It's just generating it. And it's putting it right next to another photo that's created by a person that took that photo. That's
wow.
I never got into the stock photography, stock videography sales game. Like I never did that because I'm just not disciplined enough. But I know a lot of people that did and made a lot of money doing it. And now
that well is dried up.
That is gone.
I was gonna say, I think that's one of the first very hard hit areas of Gen AI, and the you know, I mean, you can even do it now, like within Adobe Premiere. They just recently launched a new feature where you can generate like 2 seconds of a video clip or 2 seconds of audio and different stuff like that. And so it's very interesting, the capabilities of some of that, you know, that's coming out. But stock footage, I think, was one of the first places where it's like it's going to hit hard there.
Well, that's
Well,
AI in a
it's the
nutshell,
same
right?
with Artlist. Artlist just started their AI features, and they had actually, I created some pictures where I just simply said, I need a Hawaiian warrior that holds a Sony A7 III in his hand with a volcanic background.
Bro, you
did
could take a
very-
selfie. You could just take a selfie and get that.
Go outside.
Doing all that extra work.
well, it worked out well, except for that the AI is still flawed because the guy had like 8 fingers, holding with one hand, had like 8 fingers and stuff. The interesting part was, though, at some point that I said that I wanted it as a reflection in a lens, and then it asked me if I wanted to animate that into a video, and it came out really good. The problem that I have with that whole AI making it is you still can see if you have human figures in there or human subjects in there.
Yeah.
You still can tell that it's CGI. The other part is I tried, because I film a lot of volcanic footage, and my footage is pristine. Like literally, it's like state of the art. You can't see that anywhere else except for here or in Iceland or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to sit there. That night that I sent it to you guys in Discord, I sat there for 12 hours before it even went off. And I got it, and I sat there for another 6 hours filming it. And the footage that I got from that, I tried to recreate that on the AI via Artlist, and it just wouldn't come out. It wouldn't look real. It looks close, but it doesn't look real. The problem is that what I keep forgetting is that the vast majority of the last 7 billion people on this planet haven't seen it. They don't know what it really looks like.
They don't know. Yep.
So they're gonna go with that AI, and they're thinking it's real. You know,
yeah, AI doesn't understand physics, but the moment it does, the moment AI can replicate physics properly, we're in trouble.
Yeah, physics and contextual relationships, things being handed off. Like that's the other way that you can quickly trip up video AI is be like, okay, a girl holding a piece of paper, she puts the piece of paper down. And what she ends up doing is like putting her hand down, and like she walks away and her hand is still there. Like,
but if you look at how fast it's already evolved, like it's a matter of a couple of years, and then
I will say though that I think that there is I think sometimes we lack the conversational context around the human eye's ability to understand the uncanny valley, because and we're going to test this obviously in the next few years. We're going to test it and find out like how bad can it get, because you can watch a movie that has the best CGI in the world, and other than those little things that they're trying to fix, there's still times where you're like, well, I know that that's not real. It's obvious that that's not real.
Right.
But I'm enjoying the experience, and I'm going to allow myself to do that. The difference is when you get it and you weren't expecting it.
Yep.
The human brain, we're from caveman times, we are genetically engineered to understand what isn't us.
What isn't us? Yeah.
You know, and that uncanny valley, that like, what is that in the bushes, right? That is seriously, right? They've done studies about the ability for humans to identify things that are not real or not accurate or should be,
because based on your experience,
and then run.
Based on your experience,
unless there's 100 of you and there's a gorilla,
your brain will automatically replace whatever you know. You know what I mean? So whatever you know, it will replace whatever is really there until you understand what's really there.
Yeah.
You know?
But and if you can't, and your brain, does a little checksum, and it's like, that doesn't
if your brain ain't braining, that's bad.
Right. You know how I would like to use it today? So I'm doing a video on these augmented reality glasses, and I want to talk about like how you can use it at a coffee shop, or you can use it at a park, and it's great in like sunlit settings. And I got some footage today of me using it at a park, but I couldn't go to a coffee shop because it was completely packed and there was nowhere to do it at. And I'm like, that's a use case where if I could tell AI, keep me real, but change the environment around me with applicable lighting. Basically green screen it, but make it look real. That right there is how I'd like to incorporate AI into my content. And I think it's acceptable because it's not replacing the work. It's just making us more efficient and showing here's all these different use cases you can do with this. I don't need to physically do it myself to show you here's an idea of how you could be using this. I think that's okay in my opinion, but to replace work entirely, I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on like, where's the line?
Ethical question. Do you disclose the fact that you weren't actually in those environments when testing the product?
Well, see, I was just thinking that too. Like, what are the ethics behind it? Because if it's obvious enough, like if I'm sitting like somewhere crazy and the whole scene shifts behind me, like it's like that's kind of obvious, right? But like, should you have to? I don't know.
I mean, what's immersion in the park with no people
like,
versus the coffee shop?
When you say, are you admitting, like, are you putting it out there? Like, I wouldn't identify that. Like, I wouldn't flag a YouTube video or an Instagram reel as AI generated in that instance. But maybe, like, if we think back to like 90s TV, right? When you'd watch like, Unsolved Mysteries, and they'd have an actor pop up to do something. They'd put a little thing at the bottom that would say like, recreated for drama or recreated for the sake of this video. And that's basically what you're talking about doing. You wanted to show that you were at a coffee shop. You did go to a coffee shop. You tested them there. You just couldn't get B-roll for it. And it's nice to have B-roll in your video. So you recreated the B-roll.
But isn't it part of the YouTube upload these days that you have to say that? There's a click button on it that states like, is there altered reality? Yeah, and I think you have to mention that in there. You have to click.
Well, I was referring to like the experience.
The parameters are super soft. It's up to you.
It's a gray area.
Yeah, I was referring to like sharing the experience. For instance, a VR headset or AR headset, whatever. What's the immersion sitting in the park, right, and sharing that experience versus the immersion you felt with 1,000 people around your ears in a busy coffee shop, right? Like if you just do the B-roll, you can't actually share that experience. You can only say that it's being used, you can use it in this environment, but you can't actually share like how immersed you were during that environment if you didn't actually go.
Still got to do the thing.
Well, like what's the difference between that and using a green screen? Like, does it define like if you have a fake background behind you or something like that and it's all green screen? Like Joseph, if your background, if you were just sitting in front of a green screen, would you have to mark that on a YouTube video? Like I
don't think you do. Because it's still your own creation, because that one is part of the, how they have that for Zoom and all that stuff where they blur out the background. I don't think that's defined as that. It's altered reality. It's based on if you are sitting in this coffee shop and there were nobody around, but you wanted it to be a busy place. Now you altered that reality that you just filmed by placing AI subjects in there.
And do they have an AI detection filter that would flag it? Like, and
no,
like,
it's all.
I think it's by interpretation if somebody flags it. You know what I mean? And
the honor system the honor system doesn't exist online.
and again, like I'm not saying like the generation of the project of the project. I'm just saying like setting the expectation. Like if you're doing a product review, setting the appropriate expectation for the consumer. Right, like if you say this is good in a busy coffee shop, but you didn't actually use it in a busy coffee shop, you just have.
I'm gonna head out. Thanks so much for the conversation.
All right,
go shoot some photographs.
All right, brother.
All right, Joe.
I forget he's on the West Coast and he's still got daylight.
No. That's a Canon thing. He hit his 30-minute record limit. I know all about that. he will too.
I do want to make sure like we're covering the discussion around like things we know now versus back then and things like that, because I know there were some folks in the comments, Walter and Off Axis, that were asking questions around different experiences and things like that. One thing that I think is not talked enough about within the content creation world are the mental portions of content creation, like burnout, getting procrastination, coming up with ideas, how often you post, the topics, and things like that. There's things that you learn through experience, your workflow and things like that that's not talked enough about. And if I was to be able to go back, I would keep things simple as possible, as long as possible, with smaller incremental changes versus trying to recreate someone's style or something like that over time. Like I would start organically whatever base level that I have, and then just incrementally, how do I make the next couple videos better? And we talked about lighting, we talked about audio and things like that, but at the end of the day, there's storytelling, right? And I think that's something that we don't learn about until later in our journey. Like we know how to make stuff look good, and that's the first thing we focus on, but how do you tell the story of that product and the folks that need to use it or use it, or if you're just like Peter McKinnon and them, how do they tell such good stories that made me want to be a YouTuber? How did they go out with those cameras and create this video that made me like, dang, I want to do that too. That looks fun, right? And those are things you learn later. And so I think I think those are things that are important as well, that new content creators, should know as well. Like, try to keep it as simple as possible for as long as possible. Just incrementally get better over time, and don't try to get from point A to Z at the beginning. Go A, B, C, D, E, and over time your content just naturally gets better.
Yeah, and I think that's where we all been. We all watched our Peter McKinnons, we all watched our Casey Neistats, we all watched our Peter Lindgrens, our Josh Gills, and we wanted the one thing that most content creators make the mistake at is they want to be like them, they emulate what they do, and their expectations are that they're going to hit the same way.
Yeah.
And the moment they don't, they get discouraged, and then you get burned out because you keep trying. I made the same mistake in the first year, I believe, where I tried to be just like that. I wanted to have the same quality. I wanted to be able to tell that story the same way, not realizing how much work actually goes into those workflows, what you got to do.
Yeah.
One example, if you watch a video of Peter Lindgren, he is a master in vlogging, storytelling. What you don't realize is he just has to set up that camera to walk in there, walk in, set up camera, walk back out, throw the bag backwards into the rubbish can, go back, make sure that the rubbish bag actually hit, and then still look natural doing it, and then go back, grab your camera, and then walk away from it after reviewing it. So that's a whole action that you would do in real life for 30 seconds just got prolonged by 10 minutes. Going into a store, walking just past the door, you just have to set up the camera, walk past that door, walk back, grab your camera, and set it up somewhere else. Again, a 5 second action prolonged to 5 minutes. People don't realize that until they start doing it, and then that's the reason why they get burned out. The other part, so the way I fixed that for me is, first of all, I call it idea, creation, post, and move on. Because I totally took out of the equation the expectation. Because my expectations were super high, because I put so much effort and time into that work, that I thought it's worth this much. Once you don't get that feedback from YouTube, you feel crushed and you feel discouraged. If you don't have that expectation, to say it simple, my expectations is, if I post something, which I usually do once a week, I expect 100 views within the first 24 hours. That's it. I don't look at the analytics. I don't look at the views. I don't look at the clicks. I don't look at none of that. Why? Because the moment I post it, I'm already with my next idea to create the next project. So that I have 7 days from today that I just did it to come up with the next one. The other part that I do is where I say idea, I always have like a small notebook. If I'm driving around and all of a sudden, bro, I should make a video about that, I write it down. Like real quick, because sometimes you think of it, oh, that would be a great content. And you think about it and you didn't note it, or you didn't text it to yourself, or you didn't write it down. You forget about it. And then 2 days, 3 days later, like, oh, what was I thinking about again? So if you write that down, you keep that thought, and it will be the next idea for your next project. You know what I mean? The other part is the niching part. If you are a new content creator, if you want to niche down, first of all, make sure that you have the financial stability to do so. Don't go get yourself into debt. The other part is that really what you want to do? I mean, it's great to do real estate. It's great to talk about finances. It's great to do camera reviews and stuff. If you can't afford to go into the store right now and spend $4,000 on this, don't do it. It's that simple. Don't do it. This is a Sigma 7200. If I would have known 6 years ago what I know now, I would have picked up a 7200 first off. Besides the 16 to 35. The 16 to 35 simply because of the vlogging. The 70 to 200 because of the cinematic style. Because of the blurry background. You don't need nothing else. You know what I mean? So I didn't know that. So we all have to go through the trials and tribulations. But if I could tell somebody, is get rid of your expectations. Because your expectations is what's going to lead you to a burnout. Your expectations of, oh, I want 1,000 views because I just spent 10 hours making this. 10 hours ain't shit. Because movies take 2 years to make. You know? So if you just did it in 10 hours and you edited it yourself and you upload, what did you really do? You know what I mean? Like, some of my episodes take 2 to 3 days. Some take 5 hours, including the editing, you know? The difference between me and other creators is I enjoy editing, and I put a lot of effort into it to make it flow. and to tell a story. It took me a while to get there. The other
Mhm.
part is what most people don't have is you watch all these YouTubers, but I asked you two guys, were you really comfortable the first time you stepped in front of that camera?
Mm.
I kind of was.
You kind of
So vain.
Well-
no, bro. It's because that's what I do for a living. Not in front of the camera, but I talk to people. Right. I've been in HR and talent acquisition operations for almost 20 years. Right. And so like I envision I've always from the beginning, and I was in drama class and stuff like that. Like I didn't act like Corey, who talking about he's nervous in front of the camera, but like I've always had to talk to folks professionally. And on top of that, I'm one of 11 children. I grew up in a noisy house where everybody had to have strong personalities. You know what I mean? And so I also didn't understand what was on the other side of the camera. So it wasn't anything for me to be afraid of. Like I didn't get on there thinking about, oh, the audience is going to, respect me or all of those different things. I just wanted to do what Peter and them was doing. Like I didn't even think about the audience. I just wanted to make content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like when I first started, I was talking to Corey about this because burnout happened to me about 2 years ago. But when I first started, I was just having fun creating content, doing all the crazy B-roll edits and the sliders and all the product stuff. And that's kind of where my channel kind of started growing in that direction. It wasn't until I started paying attention to analytics and things like that I actually experienced burnout. Prior to that, it was just fun. It was like, oh man, this is good. I hit 10,000 and 15,000. It was just like, I didn't pay attention to that stuff. But then once I started paying attention to analytics, like why didn't this video do this? And why didn't this video do that? That's when I actually experienced burnout for the first time. It was not until that point that happened. So, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed, like, I used to make a lot of videos for like the gym too. So like that's another thing. Like I was already putting myself out there weekly doing posts from the gym and stuff like that. And so by the time I started doing YouTube, it was just another thing that I was creating. So it wasn't like I started from scratch. So I never had that experience of being nervous in front of the camera.
For me,
the only part that I had for me was I used to play football, so they had the TV crews there. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
they used to talk to you. So, but that was like pretty much the only experience you had. And then afterwards, you see yourself on a local channel news, and you're like, "Oh shit!" But the problem with that was that you get too much into worried about what people think about you.
Yeah.
The moment that happens, you're gonna feel weird in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is for some people, they don't like the way they look or the way they act, they talk, they sound. Once you get past that threshold, that it doesn't give it, nobody gives a shit how you look, what you sound like, as long as you don't. You know what I mean? Like, be yourself and be confident about yourself. And that's where some of these kids these days, they have the issue that they don't have the confidence into themselves. They worry too much about what their classmates is going to think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all those things. The only ones who become successful is the ones who can shed that, who get rid of that.
See, my perspective on the confidence side of things, because like Cozy said, I've done stage acting. I've been in a very similar career path to him for a long time, but I grew up in an environment with, I'm not going to dive too much into it, but with a stepdad who, like, I pretty much just stayed in my room all the time because it was just like, you were put face down in the dirt any chance you left your room, right? So I had zero confidence growing up. And I'm a big guy, right? So I should have had natural confidence just from my stature, but it affected, I also played football. And it took me a long time to even feel good about what I was doing on the field and feel confident in my own position, like through coaching and just toughening up and becoming more calloused. And what you realize is that confidence is not a switch. It is earned, and it's a painful thing to earn, if it's not something that you kind of grew up with necessarily. And so for me to get in front of the camera, it's weird because it's like I had already tried streaming on Twitch twice before I started YouTube. So for me, it wasn't like that's what I equated it to. Being in front of a live audience is a lot different than recording yourself. And I had a friend of mine he's actually the guy that edits my videos right now. He said, just talk to the lens like you're telling a friend about this product. And that completely changed my mindset. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And then just over time, like I can rattle off so much now. And I used to be worried about oh man, what if I don't cover every single feature and aspect? And even as recently as the last couple of months, Cozy kind of made me start thinking about this differently, where it's like I'm reviewing this from my point of view, not like I'm not a product page. And I think that kind of started changing my mindset, even just as of recently, about how I just did this gimbal, right? And there's 50% of the stuff that gimbal can do that I didn't cover.
Yeah, more
And
than that.
because it's not
Yeah.
applicable to me. There's a ton of
Yeah.
people that read from the specs sheet and tell you what it does. But for me, I'm doing something that no one else has done with it. And I think like you just build that confidence over time. And I've seen so many negative comments that you just start to build a callus to it, and you just kind of laugh it off, and you thank them for their engagement and helping your channel grow.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, all I want to do is make each video 1% better than the last one.
Yep.
That 1%, just do something a little bit better each time, and over time that really adds up. And then also the last thing that I'll say when it comes to keeping your confidence high and dealing with burnout, I'm going through burnout right now as we speak. Like it's like I am trying to figure out a way to keep myself going, so taking scheduled breaks is huge. And so I'm due for one of those, because like NAB was a super fun time, but it's like I went from work on Friday to flying out for NAB. NAB was a heck of a time, a ton of energy, went right back to work when we got back, and then back into the next weekend of video creation. So there's
content speeds up after those events too.
It really does, because then you got squished time frames. But I started doing, I put this around everywhere I go. What it says is every day I build the future no one is handing me, right? Like, so I tape this up everywhere I think is it backwards on here?
No, it's right.
No,
it's
okay.
Right.
It's mirrored on me. So anyways, I tape that up everywhere in my house, in my studios, so that I remind myself like there is no breaks. Like if you really want this, you got to really go after it, because there's a lot of people that give up, whether it's a hard comment that pisses them off, or they don't feel like they're good enough, or they're nervous. 99% of people quit this and they don't stick it through.
Yeah.
So
comments are an interesting thing. It's I got sometimes you get some crazy comments, and like when I first, like, and I mean like there's funny comments, but I'm talking about like the negative ones. And like when I first got my first negative one, like I took it so personal, like who did this cat like think he is, and all this different stuff. And now it's like you see the comment and you're like, what is that guy even thinking about? Like what? Like, and you just move on. Yeah, like that. That's interesting. And like, you kind of just move on. So I think that's something also, for like newer folks, or like that I know now, is like some people say things just because they want to say something. It has nothing to do with your video. It has nothing to do with your perspective. It has nothing to do with your personality. It doesn't even have anything to do with, the product you may be speaking about. Sometimes they've already made their mind up on the product, and like you saying something different versus what they think, or different from their experience. Okay, Durant. But it's so interesting. Like comments, comments are something that, as content creators, you get used to over time. It just is what it is. And it's like, I am 1000% willing to have a discussion with someone, because you're not always going to agree with everybody. And at the end of the day, you're just adding a perspective. You're not adding law to YouTube, right? You're just giving a perspective based on your experience, known or unknown bias, understanding of other products within the market space that you support and things like that. So it's not law, right? And so I'm always willing to discuss, like, okay, well, what was your take on this? Or, hey, you said you got it too. Let the community know what you think about it, and and all of those different things. But it's just interesting that some people they're not even there for that. They're just there to troll, and it is what it is. And those are the ones that bother you at first, but you get about a year and a half into it, you're like, man, all right.
The ones that really nothing really gets under my skin anymore. But every now and then, it's like someone will watch to a certain point of a video, completely shit on that one point, and not know that I talk about it a minute later and like talk through, but they shut it off as soon as they hear something they don't like, and they leave a mean comment. And there's been a lot of times where like I literally tell mean commenters, I'm like, hey, I appreciate you engaging with my channel and helping it grow. Thanks so much. That's the only thing you can say, because they want that. They want you to get pissy at them. And a lot of times they don't actually think you're going to see it and read it. So I've had a lot of them back down after I responded, because they were like, oh, I didn't think the dude in the video was going to like
the dude, right?
It's always
funny. This dude, like, I read it, bro. Like, it's me. I'm the dude.
Yeah. Well, and that's what people forget, dude. I had this, like, there's this thing that happens whenever you get like your channel starts growing and you start catching more of traction, you start catching more people who don't believe what you're saying because you have a following, because you have products being sent to you and stuff like that. And it kind of reminds me, like last year in my hometown, I ran for city council, and like there's a lot of things I was doing in the community up until I announced my campaign that people were really supportive of and positive about. But the moment I attached politician to my name, it all changed and no one trusted me anymore. And the same thing happens with content creators. The moment that we have a following and a company sent us a product, it's like, oh, he's a shill. They're paying, you know, like this ain't real. And I'm like, golly, like those frustrate me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the biggest things too, is like you look at most of these bigger content creators now, they always say like, oh, this was sent to me. Now, once that is said to me, it feels not real anymore because they just disclosed that. You know, because it's like, so are you telling me all these positive things because there was no negative things in your video? Like, where's the negative aspects? So I always question that. Now, there's some content creators, for example, Peter Lindgren, who still says certain things about, oh, I don't really like this. I don't know why they did this. You know, that's what keeps it real with him, where I still jump on his channel and I still watch his stuff because he still says like, I don't know why they created a new battery for this. There was no need for that. Keep it within the ecosystem. Why did you do this? And they questions that.
You can't use
and that's what I like about it. You know what I mean? It's just like some other guys. For an example, I know Peter McKinnon, for example, is totally not an action camera guy. And he was one of the guys who just promoted the X5. And I was like, and then I stumbled over all these X5 videos where they hammered their freaking lens just to do that thing. And I was like, bruh, it's getting old. You know, like
Marquez Brownlee
exchangeable lens with GoPro already. So it's nothing special. So what did you guys do besides that? Did you guys increase the sensor size? I posted that comment on one of the videos and it was deleted. My comment got deleted because I asked that question. I thought, oh, yeah, we had exchangeable lenses already back then with GoPro. So it's not really anything innovative. So that's why, which brings me back to new content creators. When I hear them where they want to be, what their goal is, I keep telling them, be authentic. We don't need another Peter McKinnon. We don't need another Casey Neistat. We don't need another Josh Yo or another 808 State. We want you to be you. Because I watch Cozy's channel. I watch your channel because of you. Because the way you are, because like Kofi too. Kofi is like, you know, there's more to it. He has a lot of knowledge. You know, Tam, for example, she has a lot of things going for her. You know, I mean, just Joseph, just meeting him for the first time, it's like, damn, that dude is like Gerald Undone #2. You know,
he is.
Like, he has like some of the stuff he was saying, I was like, what did he just say? Like, there's so much technology within. He has so much knowledge. But that's authentic. That's what makes them authentic. And I'd rather watch those people because I know that they dive into the product itself and they use it. So that's what I try to do. And that's why I keep telling people, when you make new content, when you be a new content creator, and you want to start 2025 YouTube, there's never a bad time to start YouTube ever. Just do it. Just freaking do it. Just get out there, just do it. You have a cell phone? Well, get freaking started.
Agree.
You know, the next tax return come around the corner, pick up a mobile Osmo, you know, pick up a DJI Mic Mini. You know, slowly but surely work your way up there. Sooner or later, you'll have that exposure and you'll have the traction that it will gain. You know, the one thing is though, YouTube is a marathon. It's not a
100%.
That's the biggest thing.
It's not a sprint. You know, you're not going to take off today to tomorrow unless you really do clickbaitish kind of dramatic stuff that drags like 500 million views within the first week. You know, you ain't going to get that. You know, and I mean, that's within the last 6 years that I've noticed it. I'll stick to what I do and I'll just post what I want to post. Why? Because I believe YouTube will be around for a whole lot longer than I will be.
You know? Agree.
And because of that, if I perish, everybody else still going to be able to see my ugly mug all over the internet. And my kids will be able to watch who I am. And the reason why they know me, so that's in the back of my head. My family knows me. My friends know me. I do not want to be, I don't want to appear different online than I am in person. I mean, Corey, you met me, Cozy, you guys met me. I'm no different in my videos either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The only thing that is different is my swear words. Because in private, I sometimes talk like a sailor.
Let him rip.
Let him rip like full on. You know,
I'm having
online,
to hold back too.
Yeah, online it's a whole lot different. You know, because I just. You know,
dude,
I don't know. I just think it doesn't belong, you know, online because there's also a more less mature audience watching, and I don't want to teach them that. I'm here to relay this product to you. Yeah, if it's shit, I'm going to tell you it's shit, but I don't have to go further off, you know, and throw all kind of other different words in there.
Man, I remember at that Cosmopolitan party, whenever, like, I think Paul had told us, there's Olo from 808 State, and you're wearing that white shirt, and I was just like, you just had this kind of aura about you, and I just grabbed my whiskey, and I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to this dude. And I don't normally do that. Like, I don't normally, like, I'm kind of an introvert, actually, funnily enough.
He told me that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to him.
Yeah, I was just like, you just look like a cool dude. And I think I told you that whenever I walked up.
That was your opening statement. It was like, hey, you look like a cool dude, man. I figured I'd come over and talk stuff. Hey, what's up, bro?
And then it was like just an hour and a half of just hanging out and chatting. And Mrs. 808 State was bringing just nonstop Long Islands. And
I had the hardest time walking that sucker back to the freaking Uber. And then the worst part was, you know, we reached that Uber and she giving me all kind of like and this Uber pulls up and it's a Tesla and somebody says something further down over there. I didn't even pay attention to it. And she goes like, shut the F up.
Oh, no.
Gets into the car. And the dude looks at me and he looks at her and it's like, I was like, oh no.
Like, you know, you're gonna have to deal with it. Yeah.
And then she kept going on and I was like, babe, I know, babe, it's all right, babe. And then she was like looking at me after. She's like, are you belittling me? I was like, nope. I just want to be able to get with this Uber before he kicks us out. And then the guy is so cool about it. He goes like, nope, I get it. She's drunk. You're not. And I was like, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good Uber, dude. Thank you, man.
So, yeah, he was good. It was a Mexican dude. He was pretty cool.
That
and then
night,
we got out and then we walked upstairs and she said, I want to go gamble. I said, no, we're not going to gamble. We're going to sleep right now.
Right. Dude, at the Airbnb that Cozy and I were sharing, I just woke up at 7:30 in the morning. I had to piss like a racehorse. And
my God, this dude here, bro.
Cozy was in there lotioning his legs in the shower. And so I was like, dude, it was a one bath. We will never get a one bathroom Airbnb again. I'll tell you what, because I was standing out there and I'm like, it's either the sink or the balcony.
Bro, he told me that later. I was like, no, you didn't. No,
let me tell you this, brother. We're on the second floor of this little basic ass concrete balcony, and I was like, it's either the kitchen sink or that balcony. And so I just cracked the door open, closed the blinds, and just let it rain on that balcony below me. And I felt so bad, but I've never had to piss that bad in my life. It was all that drink trying to get out of my body.
I did that mistake in 2023. That was my first NAB ever.
Yeah.
We ended up flying in that Thursday night or Friday night, and then that Saturday was supposed to be the NAB. I fell victim to Vegas. It was my first trip ever to Vegas. We ended up drinking. We ended up gambling. We drank until like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I was like, oh my God. The next morning, she wakes me up, and she was like, babe, it's time to go to the NAB. And you guys know how big that NAB is.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And I ain't no walker. I mean, you see me. I ain't walking. You know, I'm made for short sprints. You know, it's like 10 yards. We're done. Good. Let's take a 10-minute break. And I'm like hanging. So if you guys ever end up back on my channel, try to look for that NAB show for the 2023, you're going to see, because I filmed myself. I did the vlog about it. Like, I fell victim to NAB, to Vegas. And it was horrible. But then as soon as I started walking and I ended up meeting all these content creators, and that's when I was like deciding 2024, I couldn't come because of work. But then 2025, I told my wife, I said, we got to go. You know, I want to meet more people. I want to connect. You know, networking at the NAB is really, really great.
Dude.
And I mean, look at it. I mean, this is great. I would have not thought that this stream would end up like this. Like,
well, that's the thing, man. Like Cozy and I, we went to CES in January, and it was great. It's too big to really appreciate, you know, because it's like too much going on. We had a great time, and it made us way more efficient at the NAB, because NAB is obviously way smaller, but like the community but in the content creation space is so much better than I was anticipating, specifically in like the camera world, right?
I was told that the NAB used to be just a broadcasting thing until like 6 years ago. That's when micro content creators and content creators started taking over.
Yeah,
and they started, because everything these days is social media. So
Agreed.
the NAB is like a great networking kind of stuff where you can meet other people, but you got to be reserved about it too. I met a couple content creators. I'm like, dude, I'm about to slap you against this wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad that wasn't me.
They're so arrogant and they're so like not down to earth. I'm like looking at him. So why? Because you had 500,000 followers.
Dude, we were
like,
at Opus Clips was having a presentation, and we were sitting here, and they had like this TikTok guy who had like 5 million followers, and he's kind of like, he's got like this real dry sense of humor, and like I'm just sitting there, and I leaned over to Cozy. I was like, dude, this guy's a effing douche. And the guys in front of me heard me and turned around, and they laughed because they were thinking the exact same thing.
It was,
I was like, this ain't our crew, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. So if you're a new content creator and you guys make it, don't change. Be authentic.
Don't change.
Stay yourself, bro.
That's one of the things about NAB that, like, if you've ever been to races like NASCAR and F1, like CES feels like F1, like it's the Italy, right? It's the super fast cars, it's the high heels and business suits and things like that. And it's like you're going to find, here and there cool pockets of people, but for the most part, people are going about their everyday lives. They live in little niches, and and they can be arrogant to an extent. NAB is like NASCAR, where they have the sleepovers for a week, right? People are out there in their campers. They got their motorcycles. They got, all different walks of life are walking through that infield, hanging out the whole week of the race, right? And you're just communicate. So that's what I felt like at NAB. Like NAB and this goes into another point. If you're a newer creator, do not wait to build up a network of other creators that you can hang out with.
I waited too long.
Don't put that off. Don't not send the message to the creator that has 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people thinking that you shouldn't do that. Reach out to those people as quickly as possible, because it just expedites your understanding of this, the gear, all of those different things. That's another thing that I would say that people don't do enough. They don't network for learning purposes, or just having that conversation. Like, Corey, I saw your video, man. What did you do on that scene? Like, how did you make that one B-roll shot? Like, how did you get that product to float in the air? What did you do there? Like, having those conversations speeds up your skill set, your knowledge base so fast.
Literally today, I sent Cozy an unsolicited thumbnail, and I'm like, hey man, do you like this one? Did he's already doing A/B testing, because I just saw it and I was like, I just had an idea. But like, no, you're absolutely right, because like first couple of years of YouTube, YouTube's a very, very lonely career opportunity. It's you get caught in your own space. And what changed it for me is I actually mimic my style a lot after Mr. Beast, where the rapid nature of the video, that's where Cozy and I are complete opposites. Like, our video style is complete opposite. However, the learning curve of YouTube is the same. And so like, we could expedite that, like he said. Like, we met with Carl from Techful Goodies through like Temu videos, which we all three do. And we kind of started to hang out in that regard. And it was just like being able to bounce ideas and say, hey, what's this thing that you learned here? That might take you 6 months of learning the hard way, versus someone just said one sentence and it just saved you that much time. So networking
in our Discord, where I was in there and it said Chat GPT, never heard of. Just tried it the other day, applied it to 2 of my shorts. I'm like 2,000 views in. I'm like, what the hell is happening here?
So Paul from the group actually reached out to me. He's like, hey, what's your template for Chat GPT? And I sent him how I designed my scripts like that. And I use it for all of my script writing, not to write the script for me, but like what I'll do is I'll take, like, every company puts like a product manual or page on like their website, like a user manual. I'll paste that URL into Chat GPT and I'll say, I need talking points for every feature this has. None of that is lying. It's being able to there he is. Speak of the devil.
Speaking of the devil.
Mark Stone.
But anyway, so it'll consolidate all of the features, and then I'm like, I just start typing, here's what I like, here's what I like, here's what I like, here's what I don't like, and I'll just word vomit into like a notes thing, paste it into Chat GPT and say, hey, tighten this up a little bit and give me bullet points. And then I read it through, and it makes script writing that much easier. There's Paul.
See, that's the one thing that I haven't done is script writing. Like, when I review a product, I use it so much. Like, for an example, right now, I'm doing a review on the DJI Mic Mini, and I've been using it for the last 3 months. And that's how long I take myself to do a detailed and in-depth review, which is my authentic authenticity because I know about the damn thing.
By the time
I might not know all the technical aspects, but I use it for practicality. So
Yep.
meaning that if I tell you this microphone is shit, then this microphone is shit because you can't
Yep.
use it for nothing else. You can
Yep.
only use it for this. Now, if I tell you that this microphone is very practical, I'm going to tell you exactly what I used it for.
Mhm.
And if that falls within your bracket, that's what I want my viewer to see of me, you know, and that's the reason why I probably haven't gotten plus besides that, off the subject, but I always used to be a huge anti-DJI kind of guy. I was never into DJI because in the beginning they were just the monopoly of things, and I just never like give that to them, you know. So I went with Autel, and I went with other drone companies, and I went with other like Holy Land, Holy Land, the microphones and stuff.
Hollywood, yep.
Yeah, but then using it and then applying it, I realized afterwards that DJI has a great or developed to a very great ecosystem, and I'm reverting over more and more to a lot of DJI products because of that. And
yeah,
I used another SDR system for video transmission, and that was total crap. It crapped out on me like every time there was a big truck driving in between me and my reception studio or my receiver, and I was like, "What the hell?" So I returned it, and just for the hell of it, I paid $50 more, and I picked up the DJI SDR system. Dude, I was like half a mile away, in the boonies, and I had my reception thing in the truck with my brother. And I call him up on my cell phone, barely any reception. And I tell him, do you still get picture? And he's like, oh yeah, crystal clear, like you next to the van. I'm like, wow. So, and I'm talking story and I'm doing this and I'm, you know, for this vlog and stuff, because I just never like haul all that stuff down there. And then I come back up and I'm like totally out of breath. And he goes, you forgot to turn off your microphone and your camera. I heard it all. And I'm like, what? And he was like, I heard it all. Your breaks in between where you're like, why the hell am I doing this? I'm like, I guess the system worked. You know what I mean? So yeah. So now, anyhow, I'm just trying to be authentic. That's why I take my time with the products, because I purchased them myself. And that's what gives me the liberty to technically say whatever the hell I want. Right. Now, when you look deeper into content creation, there's a lot of people that are in there just to try and hopefully make money.
Yeah,
you know. And I only got fortunate enough because 10 years ago I did action camera motorcycle videos. I named one video called "Why We Ride," and that was just a montage of when we do wheelies and do stupid stuff and break the law and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
2 years after I stopped filming because my brother died and I filmed him dying, I stopped completely. 2 years after I stopped, there was a movie released, which was a motorcycle documentary. It was called "Why We Ride." And my video on YouTube just took off because of that and got like 250,000 views within a week. And that's all of a sudden I got these emails coming in. I'm like, what the hell is this? Oh, do you want to be monetized? You have 1,000 subscribers. You have the views and you have all this. Back then, never had the view hours yet. Just had the 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, why not? But I never jumped back on. And then 6 years after that, I was like, you know what? I get back into cameras. And that's when the 1R happened. And that's when my journey started, technically seen in 2019.
Yeah.
You know, my YouTube journey, which started off as I want to make videos to tell people this is total shit. Don't buy this, you know? And yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's been a journey, like I said.
You know, one thing I'm kind of bummed about personally right now is that I have gotten farther down the business, it's a good and a bad thing, because I've gotten farther down the business side of YouTube so that it's becoming a serious potential income career opportunity. But it's gotten so busy with how many products that I have on the shelf to review right now, how many emails I'm going back and forth with, that I have lost all of my creative juice. So now it's kind of become this cookie cutter, just product review, get it out. When I used to spend a lot more time into doing funny intros, incorporating humor, just kind of spitballing with the audience. And I don't do that as much because I'm just always drowning. And I need to, I want to get back to where I'm just buying the products to review. That's one thing that I regret. And it sounds weird, but like kind of death by success a little bit, like a business blew up too fast and now you can't keep up with demand.
Did you ever consider hiring somebody
for
help you review?
I do for my editing. That helps a lot. I hired someone to edit, and I just for me, it's like I started YouTube before I had a kiddo, and if anyone doesn't have a kid before they start YouTube, understand that you lose so much time whenever you become a dad, and like because you only get like 80% of the time you're going to spend with your kid is used up by the time they're 18, right? And I think about that every single day, and so that's why I have that message that I shared with you, where it's like like I got to be efficient when I'm in the studio. I can't waste time, but it's kind of taking the fun out of it a little bit. I think I feel like I'm just bitching right now, but like I'm definitely grinding. The grind is real.
Hey, it's part of the YouTube journey, though. We all go through it.
Yeah, for sure.
I had it after I did this whole auto videos and this whole drone stuff and all that stuff. I was so burned out from drones that because I had at some point 10 drones. I had the Autel Evo 2 Pro. I had the Mavic 2 Pro. I had the Mavic 3 Pro. I had the whatever else was on the market, and I kept buying more and more. And my wife was looking at me like, what are you doing? I had the DJI FPV. I had the DJI Avata. Then I sank the DJI Avata. And I was gaining traction big time, but I started getting burned out. And then sooner before you know it, all of a sudden my health took a dive because now besides YouTube, I do a real job. I work at a jail, so it ain't fun over there either.
Right.
So I got both these negative worlds hitting me. Where one world has people that try to kill you every day, while the other world is trying to overwhelm you with you have to do this.
Right.
And before you knew it, all of a sudden that's part of my YouTube journey. So I actually was close to quitting. And I was like, you know what? Screw this YouTube shit. I don't need this. You know what I mean? Like I'm done with it. And then I took a break. And that break, those 3 months, my channel suffered from it.
I did that last year.
But during that time, I realized that my passion for videoing never went away. And that's when I was like, hey, I have fun doing this. And that's when I realized I have so many products that I bought over the last 6 years. I have content for the next 10 years if I want to. I can review this A6400. Why? Because I used it for the last 6 years. I put on all these accessories that are great for the A6400 series. I got on A7 III right here that I take pictures with. I have an FX3 that I've been using for the last 2 years to shoot volcanic footage that is off the charts. I do sports videography where people are blown away. I have movie companies local TV stations from Spectrum telling me, oh, you cannot film here live stream because your stuff is too good. That right there, is like, what? It's like because they have a channel that they stream and people have to subscribe to it because it's a freaking cable, But I'm live streaming with my setup because I have the credentials and I can go into the stadium and I can just set it up because I know the people there. But they didn't want that. And then they're like, oh, you're too good for that.
You're doing it for free and you're encroaching.
You're doing it for free. So we're losing money on that. And I was like, it's not my problem. You know what I mean? So that's where my personality comes out as that CEO, you know what I mean? The correctional officer, you don't tell me nothing until the law enforcement officer tells me different. The event manager tells me different, you know what I mean? And then, of course, my size is different too. I'm standing in front of you, 6'1", 400 pounds. You know, what you gonna do? You gonna push me? What you gonna do? Let's go, bro. I scrap every day. So, but it's just like. I found my passion in this lava stuff, and if you guys ever come and I'll take you there,
I want to, bro. I want to, bro.
You'll understand how much serenity that is, because even sitting there and just waiting for it and seeing like just how the earth breathes, and you get to film that at that moment with that silent being around you, just nature and hearing the birds and stuff, or even when I just drive down the road, which is like 2 minutes from here, and I just film the ocean crushing against the waves. Just listening to that for like an hour. And all that burnout stuff is gone. And I guarantee you, Corey, you have something in your area where there's serenity somewhere. Solid be a forest where you just sit there and you just do B-roll of tree bark. Or something serenity where you just on your own and you just enjoy that silence. There's nobody telling you what to do right now. You film what you want to film. And you can even take that product that they send you and use it. A microphone can pick up this bird sound from this far away.
That's solid.
Something like that. Think of something of that. Find your serenity. And that's what I tell plenty of the content creators that start, or younger kids that tell me, oh, uncle, I want to start a YouTube and stuff. I see you pretty successful. But you say, I get like 5,000 subscribers, like average 500 views. I'm not successful. I just do what I like to do because I like to do it. I love this, my passion. So
I love that.
it's just find your serenity. Anytime within the filming part, I realized if I have a serenity episode, that's why I created my lava junkie section in my channel. You know, it's not niche down, it's just a lava junkie section. So if you guys check that out, you're going to see it's a montage of lava, just the beauty behind it, the raw power of lava, you know, and just I was able to see that. There's 7 billion people in the world that don't get to see that in life.
Right? Yeah, agreed.
I get to share that with them. That is my gift to them. You know,
I'm going to take that invitation to come visit and check that out with you.
Oh yeah,
Man,
sure.
definitely. Like I said, I posted it in the Discord anytime. And you're gonna have your own bathroom.
For real. All right.
Yeah,
he needs it, man. He needs it. No, you know. I think that side that Corey just shared is a side that all of the folks that say, you know, when they get the products for free, they're lying. They don't understand. When you do this for a certain amount of time, products roll in, and it's the opposite. You get tired of the products. You have a responsibility in both directions, right? You have a responsibility for one to the user to give an authentic, you know, honest, transparent, buyer-friendly review, right?
Yeah.
You have a responsibility to the brand that you're working with to share honest feedback.
Yeah.
It's not about, you know, making their product looks good. It's honest feedback based on what the expected use case or persona is for that particular product. There's a responsibility in that. Like I was saying earlier with action cameras, like I'm not the persona for that because I don't do all those things and I don't enjoy those type of cameras. But if I review the camera, I still have to review it for the folks that do. Right. And so I'm not going to let my own bias infiltrate the review on that. I'm going to base it based on how that camera is supposed to be used. Right. I'm vegetarian, so please have stuff ready. But
I like it when my food had a name. So
this man here, man, don't get this Texas dude going, man. But I think people don't understand that when they say that because we have disclaimers or different stuff like that, that we're lying because we get those products for free. Man, Corey's seen my storage, man. There's so many products, you know, and it's just like I prefer to give detailed user experience based reviews, just like you, Alo. So it's like I've used this product this many times, and this was my experience with it. This was the shortcomings. This was the pluses. This was the things that surprised me after a while. This is what I didn't know until using it in week 3. And then from there, it's just like take the information and do what you want with it. But it's never like, you know, this product sucks and this brand sucks and this is horrible. Like, I just don't do that. It's just like, here's the information, right? And so you can go and make your own educated decision. Because at the end of the day, again, I'm just providing a perspective.
That's the information that you're giving.
I'm just giving you a perspective,
not biased judgment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the other part, what I keep forgetting to tell new content creator, if you're a new content creator and you watch people like Peter McKinnon, Potato Jet, Josh Yo, until 2023, I did not realize they're not alone.
Right.
I didn't realize that. I came across Josh Yo. I always thought all these years this brother man does his own stuff. No, he has somebody going with him, being the BTS or being the person filming him.
Yeah,
you know, and as a single content creator like myself, it's super hard to get BTS, to get footage of myself doing what I do the way I would like to see myself. That's another point on that too. So people McKinnon or I don't even know if Peter Lindgren has anybody filming for him, but I think he does a lot of stuff on his own. I think he's one of the real ones. Josh Yo has somebody filming for him. Peter McKinnon has 2 people filming for him and editing, sound creation too. Like all these big content creators have already a team built up. Why? Because they can afford it. Because they make enough money through YouTube with their views that they build up their brand so far that they can afford to hire these people to enhance their content. They're not single content creators anymore. And that's what people fail to see. They see the name Peter McKinnon and they only see him. In the video, it's only him unless he interacts with somebody. Another person that is really, really good of making cinematic style vlogging is Cam Mackey.
Oh, Cam's awesome.
Bro, that dude
Cam's
is
awesome.
killers. And I've seen him doing his thing, and he does have certain people around him, but the way he plans it in his head on the go and the way he sets it up, it's like literally he's the Michael Bay of vlogging.
Yeah, Cam's awesome.
It's like just pulling up with a truck, getting out of the truck, moving. That was his own sound design. That was his own way of setting up the camera, going back, driving his truck back, wait until the dust settles, and then drive there, wait for the sun to be in the right spot. So Cam Mackey is one of those people who's like real solo content creator, even though he has other people around him. But most big content creators have somebody else with them. You know, like that's why I said for micro content creators, I like that term actually, Corey. I really do. Micro content creators, because we're smaller. Well, I think I'm the smallest out of all of us. But my wife just asked, vegetarian or vegan?
Vegetarian. I eat cheese and all of that stuff.
Oh, all right.
Thanks for asking.
She makes some killer cheese.
Well, dude, it's funny because like when we first went to Vegas in January, this dude was craving a burger, but like a veggie burger, right?
Oh yeah. I was about to say this man.
No, you were craving a veggie burger, and I was like, well, like where we're gonna find a good burger joint that can cook a good veggie burger, and we found this smash burger place. Yeah, so Paul's talking about. This place makes two things. They make a smash burger and a veggie smash burger and tater tots. And that's it. And it's just that. And then it's a bar with a bunch of beer and alcohol. And I was like, so we went there this last time too. And all of this next year, whenever we go again, we'll all go out as a group because it's a sweet little spot.
It's good, man.
Yeah, I'll eat anything.
Set you up here. Paul is trying to set you up, bro.
No, I'm vegetarian.
Yeah, he said it was dang good.
It was good, Paul. It was super good.
It was real good. I'll eat anything. I don't care if it moved or not. Like, just put it in front of me. I'll eat it.
Yeah, except for pineapples.
You're not a pineapple guy?
Oh hell no, I cannot. No,
even on the grill.
Nope. It's a childhood experience that was really bad for me, and never again. I smell that. So my wife, the worst. So we just got together many years back.
Yeah.
And we stood driving in my car and stuff, and then all of a sudden I get this smell. And when I smell pineapple, it's like it gets that gag reflex. I like throw up right away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, the hell is? And I'm looking over, and she opened up this Tupperware that had cottage cheese and pineapple mixed up together, and she's eating it, munching.
My wife loves that.
Oh, and I had to open up the window, stick my head on, like, babe, put that away. And she's like, you gotta put that away. And I was like,
I think we've all got something that does that to us. For me, it's bad for most people, but spoiled milk for me does the same thing. Because there's one time where I used to, like, I'm a big guy, as you know, and so like whenever, like at lunch, at lunchroom in school where they have like the I don't know, you didn't go to the U.S. system, but like here you have your little cartons of milk. I would drink like 6 to 8 of those at lunch, and I would just pop them open, chug, just get it down.
And then you get the one that is sour and it's like,
I got the one that like, I was like, wait a minute, why can I chew this milk? And then I realized,
bro, chill.
So anything,
like,
so fast forward 20 years, that game Bean Boozled where you got those nasty jelly beans. I got one. We were doing them at the office workplace. I was working at a recruiting agency, and initiation for the new recruiters was everyone had to do the Bean Boozle, but we would still play along even if we were been there for a while. And of course, mine landed on spoiled milk, and I hadn't had that taste or that smell in about 20 years. And the moment I bit into that jelly bean, I almost just projectile vomited across the office. Like it was like instant.
All right, it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think this stream has been great.
Went quick, actually.
Full on, pretty great. Yeah, you guys, I don't know what to say. I enjoyed hanging with you guys, and I hope we're gonna do this again.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So yeah. Until then, please, people, don't forget, be a nice human, make somebody else smile, and definitely pay it forward.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.